Show me your moves. And ahoy, mateys! There'll be another episode of Geek Life, your source for all the nerdy news you need to know, starting right now. I am your host, the Dodd, the streamer this podcast needs, but not the one it deserves. And if you're new to the show, we're about a 2.5 hour mashup of all the pop culture news you know and love. We talk about your favorite TV, movies, video games, news, and time-traveling bisexual demigods. But enough about my personal life. Joining me today, fresh off a birthday, the baritone that'll make you moan, Swagno Calrissian himself, it's the fattest Sax. How are you doing tonight, Sax?
Hey, what's going on, man? I am doing well. I am excited. Like you said, just came off the birthday, the big 3-3. We out here, baby. You know,
yeah.
I'm not old at all. But you know,
nothing but a number, right?
Yeah, it's nothing but a number and aches and pains in the knees. Exactly. But yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. And the man who needs no introduction, but wrote one for himself out anyways, Jake the Great, aka Gonzo Gone Live. How are you doing tonight, Jake?
I'm doing good. I meant to actually add mediocre to that. I've totally forgot. It was the man who needs no introduction, but wrote a mediocre one out for himself. See, that would have been much better. God,
yes. It's even better when you go back and correct the intro and say this would have been better too, right?
Yeah, no, that's my brand of comedy. It's improv. We do it in the moment. You know what I mean?
Explain
like we fix it together. You know,
right?
Like,
all right, guys. We are officially in the post-apocalypse. I just got back from watching a movie in a theater. I at the Alamo Draft House. I almost cried watching the Marvel credits come in because it was just such a beautiful fucking moment. Didn't know if we were going to get here. I thought America was too fucking stupid and that Alamo wouldn't last. But hey, here it is. I saw Black Widow. It was fucking amazing. How are y'all surviving the post-apocalypse?
I am still locked inside. No, I mean, I definitely went to Atlanta for work. You know, as you guys know, that's one of the big reasons why I was out last week, but we didn't have a show last week, so it worked out perfectly. But it's the big one that, you know, if you're following along on TikTok, Daddy was finally able to get his hands on a PS5.
Oh, yeah.
And I have been playing the fuck out of Miles Morales right now.
Small flex.
Small flex, subtle flex. But Ratchet and Clank was really good too. I'm not gonna lie. I started playing it, but once I put in Miles Morales or Spider-Man, the game's too good. It's just too good, and so I've got to beat it before I can go back to Ratchet and Clank. So that's been my life. Literally, I've been Spider-Man.
I mean, I'm jealous. I'm really jealous. I mean, my first reaction is that you get a PS5 and the first thing you play is Ratchet and Clank. But okay, whatever. You know.
The new Ratchet and Clank looks gorgeous, dude. And the PS5 can actually do ray tracing. There's not many games made for PS5 yet. That's what a lot of people don't know, is that the PS5 really doesn't have that many games. And Ratchet and Clank's one of them, and it looks really good. So don't shit on Ratchet and Clank.
I'm only shitting on it because
this whole show's about nostalgia.
It is. But so jealous.
Oh.
Yeah. Waiting for that Ghost of Tsushima, the director's edition, comes out in August, and the multiplayer drops too, so we can actually play that shit together, my man.
Multiplayer?
Oh, fuck yeah. That sounds awesome.
Insane.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys haven't heard? We talked about it, I thought.
Speaking of multiplayer, though, I know that, Sax, you and I have been enjoying some of that Pirates of the Caribbean update in Sea of Thieves. What else have you been up to surviving the post-apocalypse?
I mean, you're talking about it was just my birthday, so I was just out, and me and comrade Kev, a couple other friends, we met, and you know what's funny enough, we met in the bar that we last went to before everything shut down. So I talked to Kev, and I was like, "Yo, when was the last time you were out? Wasn't it here at a place called Q Club? It's a pool hall." He was like, "You know what? Absolutely, it was here." And it was just full circle. We came back and had a drink. I had a picture of a Long Island. I don't know why one of my friends wanted to see my demise, but it was a good time. I was able to get out and drink a little outside, sitting behind a computer and playing PSO and Sea of Thieves and everything else behind the computer screen.
hey, I downloaded PSO as well now too, so I'm gonna have to get my character. I don't know if I'll be able to get that Kuwabara hairstyle that you got, the dickhead thing you got going on there, but I'll have to figure out something.
PSO, what is that?
I'll just use Urameshi. Phantasy Star Online is what it is.
Oh,
yeah, it's free. It's free.
It is an MMORPG though.
I haven't played one of those in a minute.
Yeah. I saw some gameplay on the Fattest Axis stream. Shout out to Fattest Axis stream live on Twitch. And it looked like a lot of fun. It seemed like a game that for MMOs, you usually have these kind of like generic combat styles. This one seemed like it really doesn't do that. Like it's one of those MMORPGs that really did have its own unique kind of fighting mechanics that don't seem very generic. I'll get a chance to try it whenever I get a chance to try it to actually confirm that. But that was my first thought when seeing it. Sax, what do you think?
Oh man, it's amazing. I just like it's something where I can just literally throw some music on and cut my brain off, unless I have to use it to know what it is I have to do, and just go off. And it's hilarious. I mean, now I need to find a non DMCA situation for music. I can just hit play and just go for it. And my thing.
If only we knew someone that made tasty beats.
Right? If only.
Only. Besides myself. Only.
Right. Shout out to Totally Awesome in chat. Anyways, before we get started, a quick reminder to everybody: if you like what you see or hear on the show tonight, tell your friends. Share our content, like, subscribe, do all the things. Feel free to follow us here at Geeklife Live or on any of our other social medias. If you're a veteran of the show and you want to share your support, be sure to share with a friend. And remember that our donations are always open in the bio below. We have a great show planned for you guys. Jake, go ahead and hit us with that rundown.
That's right, Dodd. We've got a hell of a show for you guys. As always, we're going to be kicking things off with all the nerdy news that you need to know, like Green Goblin flying through Manhattan, and Meg Thee Stallion is about to bring the body-oddy-oddy to She-Hulk. Probably. Then we're heading over to the water cooler for this week's office banter on Loki, and we've only got one episode left, so we're hitting critical mass on that bad boy. It's going to be a great conversation. And finally, we'll wrap things up with this week's deep dive on why nostalgia sells, and then closing things out with our top Zen games that we think need to be remade ASAP. But that's enough of an appetizer. Sex, give the people what they want. Hit them with those headlines.
Will do. Let's get it. Starting off in this week's headlines, Harrison Ford injured on Indiana Jones set. Harrison Ford suffered an injury on the Indiana Jones 5 set. Shooting began this month on the highly anticipated and still untitled sequel in the United Kingdom. According to Deadline, the severity of Ford's injury remains unknown at this time, but we do know that the injury was to a 78-year-old actor's shoulder. Walt Disney's Pictures released a statement saying, in the course of rehearsing for a fight scene, Harrison Ford sustained an injury involving his shoulder. Production will continue while the appropriate course of treatment is evaluated, and the filming schedule will be reconfigured as needed in the coming weeks. Let's hope Harrison sees a speedy recovery. Yeah, we need that movie ASAP. Yeah, for sure. Moving on to what Jake was talking about. Green Goblin flies through downtown Manhattan. A viral video of a man gliding through New York City on a large drone has reminded Marvel fans of the Green Goblin, famously played by Willem Dafoe and Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. Green Goblin has long served as one of Spider-Man's most well-known enemies. The supervillain is known for his use of explosives while using a glider to fly throughout the city, all the while with Spider-Man in pursuit. On Twitter, a video was posted of a man using a similar glider to hover his way through New York City. It's a remarkable sight, but the biggest takeaway for many is that the aircraft is highly reminiscent of the Green Goblin. With thousands of fans making comparisons to the Spidey supervillain on Twitter, the hashtag Green Goblin has also started trending. I'll take two, please. Green Goblin.
I built this company.
Could you just
I'm
imagine?
a scientist myself.
Just like it's my man on Wall Street talking about the Dow is down. Yeah. And shit.
I just
what the fuck?
Defoe's Green Goblin is legendary, in my opinion.
Oh,
like, people can shit on those movies all they want, but Defoe's Green Goblin, fucking primo.
Absolutely legendary. Absolutely legendary. I want to get through all the rest of the headlines first, but we'll talk about the Defoe's Green Goblin at the end here for sure. Oh my God, yes.
is a mouthful of headlines. And so next, Meg Thee Stallion is rumored to be in She-Hulk.
Jake's excited.
Jake. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is expanding into some fascinating places over the coming years, both in the big screen and through blockbuster series on Disney. One of the most buzzed about titles among the MCU's Phase 4 slate might be She-Hulk, a live-action legal comedy that will bring Jennifer Walters, She-Hulk, into the MCU. The series has begun filming for quite a while now, and according to a new report, an unexpected pop culture figure just might be part of the cast. A new rumor, courtesy of YouTube channel Everything Always, suggests that rapper and musician Meg Thee Stallion has joined the cast of She-Hulk. Their reporting claims that she would be playing a fictionalized version of herself in the series, and that her role could stem beyond a cameo and cover multiple episodes. I've heard she has the power of WAP, the strongest magic in the MCU.
The strongest.
We'll have to wait and see how that plays out.
Aquaman's got nothing on it.
I heard Wanda had that same power.
Not as strong though. She's Meg Thee Stallion knows the ways of the Force for sure. Yeah, it's just
that is all.
Water.
Suicide Squad release date gets moved up a day. Although the official opening date of the Suicide Squad is Friday, August 6th, the first screenings in the United States will be the day before, on Thursday evening. Director James Gunn made sure that everyone knew about the early shows by tweeting, "For those of you who can't wait, hashtag the Suicide Squad is coming to you a day early in the US. See it on the evening of Thursday, August 5th. He added a more personal note about the date of August 5th, which also happens to be my birthday, and included the hashtag in squad we trust. Thank you, universe, for giving James Gunn a birthday present we can all enjoy. Suicide Squad a day earlier." Wonderful.
Nice.
Wonderful.
Thank you,
Moving
James
on.
Gunn.
James Gunn. All right, moving on. Switch OLED announced. Well, here we are, Nintendo fans. After 4 years of speculation, countless rumors, and a metric ton of wishful thinking, new Switch hardware is finally upon us, and it's basically exactly what we've come to expect from Nintendo. Prioritizing accessibility over graphical power and introducing minor hardware updates over the course of a given generation has worked for decades. I wonder why. The new upcoming OLED model is the fourth version of the Switch to hit the market behind the Switch Lite and the red-boxed V2 model introduced in 2019. The latter was obviously not marketed nearly as hard as the Switch Lite, but represents an important update in the Nintendo Switch timeline. So now we get one with a better screen. Makes sense when you remember the Game Boy Advance did it 20 years ago, and that worked out pretty well for Nintendo. That's exciting. New screen. Moving on to the next one.
Nintendo.
Right.
It still made me consider whether or not I'm going to buy a third Nintendo Switch, so something's working.
You've got three. Holler at me after the show.
The plug.
Right? The Book of Boba Fett star says Disney hasn't discussed a second season yet. Tamura Morrison is set to reprise his role as Boba Fett after playing his clone dad, Jango Fett, in the prequel trilogy for the upcoming series, The Book of Boba Fett. But it sounds like Disney might be taking a wait-and-see approach before committing to the second season. In an interview with Express UK, Morrison was naturally asked about the upcoming Boba Fett series for Disney+. The first season wrapped filming earlier this year, but apparently there have been no discussions yet for a second season, which to us makes sense. The Book of Boba Fett is set to premiere this December, but it's not the only Star Wars spinoff in the works. After the events of Mandalorian Season 2, Ahsoka Tano, played by Rosario Dawson, will also get her own series. That's spicy. It's going to be good to see. All right, and lastly in our headlines, PlayStation Plus subscribers can currently download these 24 games for free. Damn. I want to be so bad. PlayStation Plus subscribers between PS4 and PS5 can currently download not one, not two, but 24 different games. In a few weeks, Sony will reveal August's free PlayStation Plus games. Two of these games are PlayStation 4 games, and the other is a PS5 game. In addition to this, one of June's free games is still available to subscribers on PS4 and PS5 until next month. That's 4 games. The other 20 games come courtesy of the PlayStation Plus collection, which unfortunately for PlayStation 4 users is only available to those on the PS5.
Oh, damn.
With 24 games, you'd expect a lot of filler, but almost every one of these games is noteworthy. Between games like Persona 5, God of War, and Uncharted 4, The Thief's End, you have some of the PlayStation 4's best and highest rated games. Meanwhile, there are also new PS5 games with the likes of A Plague Tale, Innocence, which just got a native port this month. The Sony gods really smiled upon us this month. Bless up while you still can.
Oh my gosh. PlayStation is making me challenge the definition of Free Game Friday to will I buy a PS5 for free games?
This was a huge move, and honestly it's one of those where like now my catalog is just like my backlog is huge. Like I've got to go back and play some of it because I never had a PS4 because I was an Xbox guy, and so but now I'm a PC and PS5 guy. We're not even getting
look at you Xbox. Now moving up in the world.
Wow. Well, all of the Xbox games are going to come to PC, so why it's almost no need to buy an Xbox, unfortunately. Microsoft, we'll see how that move plays out, but like bringing all their games to PC, like it doesn't make any sense for me to even get an Xbox, Yeah. But this PlayStation 5 move right here is really good for people like myself who didn't get a PlayStation 4, never had an opportunity to play a lot of these games, and now we can kind of test them out for free. And so I'm looking forward to, finishing up, like I said, Spider-Man and Ratchet and Clank, and then I'm going to dive into some of these free ones.
I always look into the PS5 or the PS Plus free games of the month, and I always get really excited about one game, and then I don't look at the fact that it's only for PS5 and not for PS4, and then I'll get the whole free game Friday set up for it. I'll go through and I set up all the graphics and things like that, and I'll try to go download it at the last minute, and then no, it's only available for this. And I was super excited to see that God of War could be appearing on a free game Friday sometime soon, or Uncharted 4 or Persona 5. But no, I gotta get a PS5 unless Jake's gonna start showing up to do free game Friday with his new PS5, and I think that chat should suggest that if chat wants to.
Honestly, I've thought about it because you can set up just a camera. Sony made a camera for the PS5 and everything that you can just plug it in and whatever. And I was like, should I just put this camera on top of my TV and then we just play games from the couch together? Like, is that what we're going to do?
Way to do it.
Sounds lit, man.
Yeah. But then, like, I don't know if everybody just wants to see my fat ass sitting on the couch for hours. But
I think they would, especially with those PS5 graphics. I mean, those.
We'll have a good time. Spider-Man,
that's high quality.
It's been fucking lit.
It's high quality. I'm watching. Shout out to Sad Gaming. I've been watching some of his YouTube videos on YouTube, and he's been playing God of War, I believe, on his PS5, and it's that shit is clean.
Yeah, God of War is a very good game, and I'm assuming on the PS5 it's flexing everything it can do, which means it's probably fucking gorgeous. I borrowed a friend's PS4 to play the new God of War. I'm very excited for the next installment in that series. That's the one game that PlayStation always dangled in front of me. I guess it's got to be similar to some people who actually liked first-person shooters and never got to play Halo.
Right. I mean, I was going to say, you got Halo. I look at that all the time. I hear that, and I was like, oh man, I grew up with that shit. Like, fuck.
I can't go into my stairwell.
I'm a Sony guy now. I'm Sony.
My stairwells acoustics are so good. Every time I go in there, I just want to always break out a start the Halo intro, and Jessica's like, we have neighbors, and I'm like, they'll enjoy it.
Right.
Oh, glorious.
You just hear them just chiming in on the
that would be the most amazing start of the day. You just do the little sing part, you hear everybody else joining in. It's like you live in Brooklyn.
Somebody pops out and da 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 da. Is everybody chiming in? Oh my gosh! How many more moves can our boy Harrison make at 78 here, though? That's isn't this the second time that he's gotten injured on a set of an Indiana Jones thing after he's done because I think he got hurt on Crystal Skull too, didn't he?
I don't know if he got hurt on Crystal Skull or if it was in Star Wars, but I do know he did get hurt.
Star Wars, you're right.
He did get hurt in one of his movies, and he's 78 now, so that had to happen in his late 60s, early 70s. That's crazy, man. It gets sad when you think about like that age, 78, because like, oof, like that's old.
Yeah, man. I think that maybe it's time for Harrison Ford to just chill. But
I mean, just let him CGI. If I was him, even still alive, I'd be like, can y'all just throw me in there CGI and write me a check? I'll take it. Like,
I'll do voice acting for it.
Yeah, I'll just throw some voiceovers for that. You get a young guy that's like kind of my same build, and then just CGI my face on there. I'll do the voiceover. You're fucking gravy, man. I'll keep making movies until I'm 100.
Yeah. Punch it, Chewie. Oh, sorry, wrong movie. Right? Yeah. Did either of you guys see the video of the Green Goblin though?
No, I need it to go look at it because I just need to see how close it is. You know what's funny? I may have seen something akin to, but just wasn't absolutely sure what was going on. I think I might pull it up during the break just to just see if that was what it was. But I just like I was saying earlier, I just see somebody on Wall Street just going forward in a glider, angry because the stock is down, and just going batshit. You know what I'm saying? And just screaming just obscenities about Peter Parker in business.
Yeah. It was like a giant drone that he was flying on, which makes sense. Like you could do that, right? If you just got a bigger drone that you could stand on and strap your feet into, and you got the controller. I mean, like we got the technology is available.
The technology is here. Yeah, that's what's crazy about it is like. Whenever I was a kid, one of my favorites were Hobgoblin and Green Goblin. Those are both like two of my favorite Spider-Man villains. And Green Goblin was awesome to see on the big screen, like we said earlier with Dafoe. And so like that fucking gliders, like it's crazy to see like them testing it out. And you know if they're doing it in New York, and I think one was also seen out in California, like LA, San Francisco. And so that means that some tech is starting to build these bad boys, and they're doing some testing on them.
Yeah. Somewhere.
And that just means that like we could have cool fucking Green Goblin gliders soon. So fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed that it'll be something that we can just, use to get to work or something. Can you imagine though, just someone just like chilling like morning Bob, fucking flying on this
just like flying over.
That would be crazy. It'd be crazy.
That's worth like what's more obnoxious? Like that or fucking like hover? Like, we've seen people on like little scooters and been like, oh, what an asshole. But like then, now you've got like your CEO is gonna fly in on a fucking drone. What's up, Dad? Just laying like, what's up, guys? Oh no, this? Yeah, it costs about a year's salary for you, but it's my glider. It's my glider. It was nice.
It's nice. I built this company.
Yeah, I built this company.
Oh, I know that, Jake. I know that you got to be really excited about that Meg Thee Stallion.
Yeah, why not give the people what they want and just make Meg Thee Stallion She-Hulk? Like, I don't know what. Like, who do we gotta like?
Who do you gotta go? See, okay. If I can describe this to the viewers, like, I would never describe Jake as a simp, but if I would describe him as a simp for Meg Thee Stallion. I think that there is at least a Venn diagram where that overlaps. Would you not agree, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to. Yeah, no, Meg. Yeah, she's that's like I said earlier. Like Jason Momoa is my girlfriend's hall pass, and Meg Thee Stallion's mine. And so which people are surprised by that all the time. And I'm like, shit, dude. Have you seen like the WAP video? Like, come on, like.
I was a little bit like, oh, that's
dude,
fun.
I need to send you any other.
Like that. And then like I was looking up images for the show, and I was like, okay, Jake, I understand. I understand now.
Shit.
It's she's Jake, I guarantee your alarm in the morning and body-oddy-oddy-oddy.
She loves anime. She makes anime references all the time. And she makes nothing but fucking songs that slap. Like I don't get like you can't really hate on Meg. Like every song she kind of comes out with
cat suit.
Yeah. No, shit's pretty wild. And so, yeah. I don't want to go on because I can make a whole show on Meg Thee Stallion. I do have a girlfriend, so
right. We don't want to get too caught up on that. But I'm excited to see what she can bring to She-Hulk. I think that this seems like a really interesting series. She could reoccur, and I think it's because Meg's pretty big into body positivity, and She-Hulk's going to be a big woman. Like that's like
She-Hulk's definitely going to have some body, and so it's funny that Meg is the one that gets the shout out here.
I like it. Somehow, to me, it fits, and I want to see it happen. So I'm excited to hear it too.
Definitely fits.
But one of the cool things also about that Suicide Squad release date, one, I'm super excited for this new Suicide Squad. There's no not even I'm totally hyped. I know the last one was bad, but we got James Gunn at the helm now. And I saw a trailer for it before Black Widow earlier, and you got fucking Starro in there. Trailers hit differently when you see them on the big screen. That is one thing that I forgot about going to the movie theaters. Trailers hit differently. Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings, holy shit, I'm psyched for that movie. It just hit differently in the big theater where you can see that dragon underwater. That was like, cool. And it's same thing with Suicide Squad.
It's the best way to preview it because that's how they want you to watch it is in theaters. And so when you see the trailer in theaters, you're like, oh, I forgot about this. Like there's a whole experience to a theater. Like the sound is booming, like this shit's like big as fuck, and so, I remember one of the first times I went back, that was something I clocked too, was like, oh damn, these trailers are making me want to go see more movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, no, I'm super stoked about it. Zach, you got any feelings on the new Suicide Squad?
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they do moving forward with this series, with the movie. Yeah. Because, like you said, the last one was bad. Literally, just Will Smith and Margot Robbie saved that movie for whatever salvation there was. But you know what I'm saying. But
there was like 3 good scenes.
Yeah, I think all of them included one of the 2 of them.
Right, Will Smith's scene where he's shooting all the zombies. That was cool. I was like, all right, cool. Yeah, that was a good one.
Super, yeah, that was super lit. But yeah, I'm like, and my man Idris is in this movie. I'm definitely looking forward.
Love Idris Elba.
Yeah. It very much seems like he's playing their Deadshot replacement. Like, I have your daughter. You're not really necessarily the baddest of bad guys, kind of thing. Deadshot was put in jail by Batman. I think Bloodsport is the new guy. He's put in jail by Superman because he shot him with a kryptonite bullet. There's a lot of parallels between the two characters, and he seems to me like the moral center of the group, and I'm really excited to see that happen because he's just a fucking fantastic actor. And everybody else in the cast they're bringing in, from Pete Davidson, fucking
John Cena.
Not Christopher Eccleston, but it's another one of the doctors that was there, is going to be playing the Thinker. You've got fucking the Weasel. James Gunn's brother plays the Weasel in that one.
It's all but been confirmed. There's a lot of death. There's going to be a lot of death because a lot of these guys are dying.
Suicide.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the fact that they packed it full because, that makes it so that you have a lot of branching character arcs. Nobody cares about the Weasel, so you can have a really fun, interesting story and kill that character off.
Kate made a good point. I don't see, who did they have cast as Peacemaker? I've seen multiple people talked about it, but every time I see the trailer, I just can't see him,
John Cena.
Oh, I've never seen it.
It's just like, as you were talking about.
Oh my God. I was like, that.
That was actually pretty good. That was pretty good.
Kate, we got him.
Brutal. Yep. You guys got me good. Square walked right into that.
The Switch OLED isn't the Switch Pro that was rumored and that we all wanted, but is it still worth hyping up? Like, this is kind of a classic, move from Nintendo to just give you a small upgrades as you go kind of a thing. And so, I mean, like you said, Dot, is it worth maybe even looking into getting another Switch?
I mean, again, this made me consider getting a third Switch, which again, I have one Switch and then I have a Switch Lite that my partner has. And I was really disappointed with the Switch Lite because I was thinking there was going to be much more interactivity between those two, that we're going to be able to play some games together kind of thing. And it's not really as much of the case. And I would rather have, another Switch that can plug into the TV anyways. And if that's the case, then I would rather get the new latest and greatest one, and I can pass my old one down and use it for the other TV. And so that's, for me, like that's the only reason I'm considering it at all. But like, the Switch is an amazing console. It's one of the most underrated consoles. Remember, this is the console that's supposed to be competing with the PS5 and the Series X. The Wii U was supposed to be what was competing against the PS4 and the Xbox One and all that kind of thing, and that was an utter failure. But the Switch, they launched that early, and that's why they've had so many of these iterations, because it's got to last a long time. They basically said, fuck the Wii U, we're moving on to the next gen and going there. We still have our Wii money, and so we're good. And so to me, it makes sense why they make all these different models and they're trying different things, because you know what they're doing? They're testing the market because they have enough money to do that. And I mean, again, it made me at least consider it. So there's got to be something type of for working.
If you're willing to pay to get another Switch to upgrade for better visuals, then maybe there is something to upgrading graphics. You know, like so I think they're like testing the waters with this OLED screen, you know, kind of a thing, and seeing how it goes. I don't really need a new Switch, but when I do, this is the one I'm buying. You know, like if somebody wanted one and I could get my hands on one of these, I would buy one and sell them my old one. You know. Right. I think that's a good little flipper right there. But I really don't play mine undocked as much. So that's kind of the other side of that coin there is that I play mine docked a lot. So the OLED screen, I really don't walk around with it as much. And so that's why I'll probably drag my feet on upgrading, but I probably will upgrade because I think the screen looks pretty slick from what I've seen so far. Like it's definitely makes games pop. And so
it's one of those things where it's like, is it really worth it in the long run to upgrade, because it's not going to project that, resolution on your television. You feel what I'm saying? Because it's not built for that, but for me,
Savage was saying in the comments, I don't need another Switch because I already run OLED on my TV.
I don't know, but for your boy who is Switchless, I could use whatever version of the Switch.
This is the one to get. I mean, look, the Switch is going to be sticking around for a long time. Again, that's why I mentioned it's the fact that it's the one that's supposed to compete with the PS5. So if you're Switchless right now, this is your Switch. That's what I would say.
Yeah. And I think that's what it's going to be, for real. But Mando stole our hearts. What do you think about the Book of Boba Fett? And can it do the same as how Mando did with us?
I think it's interesting the fact they don't have a season 2 planned out yet, and I honestly, what I think would be the best is to have a 1-season show where Boba Fett dies. And you go out with a bang. I know that's a hard, everyone's like, oh no, you don't want to kill off a character. Give him a whole series, make it really epic, send that character off with a bang. It's been trailing on for a long time, but I think he needs his Walter White moment. And I think that would be a really cool way to kind of wrap up the legacy of Boba Fett. And I think that it could have the potential to do the same stuff as Mando. And I think you would leave people wanting more. It would be something that people would be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they did that. Da, 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 da. It would be one of those decisions that would be like, again, that may be controversial, but I do think that would be a way to do it.
That's how you do it, because at the end of the day, they do one special season. He dies on a big fucking high note, and then 20 years from now, in some weird series, they can bring him back secretly. Do something weird
again.
Yeah, exactly. It can repeat all over again. Like it's the perfect move for Disney. They can either have him dead and keep him
cut him in half, and then bring him back in the animated series with robot.
Or he can come back as a robot. Yeah, exactly. Like there's so many things they could do.
Do a Darth Maul.
Turned out Boba had the fucking Force the whole time.
Yeah. He was revived through the power of friendship.
I know you got to be licking your lips at some of these PS Plus games. What's your favorite title on the list? I know you had said something about God of War, but
on PS4.
Yeah, the ones you can get on PS4.
Right, like that's the thing. Some of them are I mean, I cannot wait to be able to play God of War on a PS5, and I would love to do a free game Friday where I go through a God of War. Ideally, I could transfer my old data from God of War and do like a PlayStation or like a New Games Plus from the beginning, so I could have all the weapons and just go and be like, oh, that'd be an awesome free game Friday, right? And I would love to see it on the fucking amazing visuals that you have there. But I don't have PS5 money, and I don't have the resources to track down a PS5 now. Has that gotten any easier yet?
No.
Jake, how did you get yours?
So I got mine because I have a friend that was he was on.
Friend, back door. You know,
No, I have a friend that got one through. I think it was either Best Buy or GameStop or like one of them that got a restock because he had a friend that like worked there and gave him like a heads up or something. And like I don't want to mention too many names because I don't know if
exactly. See, you got to have inside intel to get a fucking PS5.
But like I really got it
I don't know any guys.
I got it at a good price because like what they're selling on StockX and eBay, I got it for like less than that. You know, like because it was a buddy of mine who got it, and he was like, "You're actually helping me out, so I don't have to meet somebody sketchy on Facebook Marketplace." You know, like, and he was like, "So if you're willing to buy it," because he actually got his hands on two of them. He got a disc version and the non-disc version, and he was like, "You know, hey, do you want one of these?" And I was like, "Fuck yeah! Which one are you selling?" And he was like, "Which one do you want?" And I was like, "I'll take the one with the fucking disc because you know I may want to play some Blu-rays or something. I don't know." And so like that's the one that he gave me, and he got me Spider-Man and Ratchet and Clank too. You know, put them in as kind of a combo deal, and so that would have cost me $120. And so at the end of the day, I really only paid him $100.
Yeah,
to get the PlayStation. So it was only $100 upcharge total.
I want to get the non-disc version because it seems to me like playing a console on challenge mode. Like, can I get through this console without having to be blocked by a game that I can't download?
Which you saw my TikTok on that fucking disc. Did you notice like it goes the other way? Yeah, it goes the weird way. I don't know how to explain it other than like it was the stupidest thing that I'd ever seen. Like I kept putting Ratchet and Clank in and it kept telling me can't read disc, and I kept going, if this fucking PlayStation, what Chinese like bullshit like fucking Sebastian and
then you just went, maybe if I did this, and then it worked.
No, I did. I literally was like, maybe it goes this way. Because it was like, make sure the disc is in the right way. And it's a brand new disc, fresh out the box. And so I was like, all right, well, let me try it this way. And it fucking worked. And I was just like, that is the most ridiculous shit I've ever seen, PlayStation. Who built you? That thing is a mammoth, by the way. It feels outdated with how big it is. I'm not going to lie. That is one of the negative parts of it, is that it's so big that you're like, where do I even put this motherfucker? It's sitting behind my TV because it couldn't fit in my entertainment center anywhere.
I was looking at that. I was trying to figure out where I'm going to put mine if I have it. And I'm like, I got no desk space.
Think about space for it and then double the space that you put in your head. That's how big this fucking thing is. It's a monster. I'm not kidding.
The size of a rig, to be honest with you. Because
I'm
looking at my rig right next to me and I'm like, yeah, I feel like the PlayStation 5 is literally bigger than that. Like as far
wise, it's about the same height as my tower, my actual PC tower, which is crazy for a game. You know, like it's not as obviously as long and everything as the airflow in a tower, but like it's about the same height.
God
and
damn.
So it's huge.
Does it sit horizontally at all?
It can go either way, but the thing is that like it's just so tall that like if you lay it down horizontally, it takes up even more space. I tried to put it in my entertainment center like this, and it just hung out. It just sat out the front, like hung out the side of it. It looked like my entertainment center had its dick out, and it was just standing there with a PS5 hanging out. Like, hey, you like that? You know? And I was like, yeah,
I'm in my own goddamn house. Leave me alone.
Exactly. Everybody's coming in and they're like, yo, whoa, it's falling out, bro. And he's like,
yay.
And so, yeah.
Oh my God.
Now it's just sitting behind it.
Yeah.
Flashing.
Well, with all of that said, though, that's not even the biggest story that's happened in the time that we've been away. If we would be remiss if we did not talk about what is going on with Gary Gygax, or more particularly Ernie Gygax, Gary Gygax's son. So, TSR Games is distancing itself from Ernie Gygax Jr., who is Ernie Gygax. Ernie Gygax is the son of Dungeons and Dragons creator Gary Gygax, and his company faces criticism for anti-trans and racist comments. For Dungeons and Dragons fan, TSR, the game wizards, conjure up memories of gathering around tabletops for a friendly gaming session. And now the folks who are trying to revive the company have chosen to give up the name they worked so hard for because of Gary Gygax's troubling son's comments about race, gender identity, and gun violence, as well as his company's reaction. The owner, Jason Elliott, has announced that his company, TSR Games, will no longer have any form of working relationship with Ernie Gygax Jr. and their partner, Justin Nassa's publisher, also called TSR Games. They are both named after TSR Subsidies, the company the company D&D creator Gary Gygax started in the 1970s as a way to publish his work, which eventually dissolved after Wizards of the Coast acquired the famous role-playing game. Gary Gygax Jr. himself has been making the rounds to promote his company, including an appearance on Sci-Fi 4Me's June 23rd, live from the bunker that quickly made the rounds in D&D forums. Gygax Jr.'s comments promoted feedback from folks in the gaming world, including one gamer who is trans, who tweeted at the publisher asking for it to voice its support for the trans community. Basically, the interview that he had, they were talking about whether or not gender identity would be included in D&D games, and he basically was like, oh, well, I don't know if we're going to get all those SJWs involved in this kind of thing. And someone was like, wait, like, but y'all respect trans people, right? Like, you would say, like, trans rights matter. Trans rights are humans' rights. Basic things, right? And they treated her like a troll. And her questions were fair. I looked through some of the comment threads. As someone who is trans, like coming from a trans person, to me, that seems like completely fair questions for someone to ask.
Yeah.
And they eventually tweeted back at her from one of their other gaming accounts, saying, "You are disgusting," in reply to one of her comments after they were calling her a troll and all those kind of things. And so it's a very triggering comment for people in the trans community. And obviously that's something that your PR company should just go in and, absolutely argumentatively break your kneecaps at that point, because that's just not something you say in 2021.
They blocked her on the main account and then went and tweeted at her from the other one, which was called Giant Lands.
Yeah.
And pretty much went on a whole berating thing, which they've deleted that now, but it's the internet. Nothing's gone forever. The
internet remembers. And there's been plenty of TikToks made on the subject where they had the pictures of the tweet in there anyway. So the reputation of it lives on. Gygax Jr. has since deactivated his Twitter account, but TSR Games and NASA account is still active. On June 27th, it compared the recent feedback to the Satanic Panic. And said that this morning, which for some of those that don't understand, a lot of people back in like the 1980s and 1990s thought that D&D was a source of Satanism in the United States. That was what people were doing, because it had so many satanic elements within it. Same thing happened with trading card games like Yu-Gi-Oh! And things like that did have satanic imagery in it. But they
even fucking Harry Potter.
Right.
Satanic Panic's been a thing for a long time, but it was in its peak when Dungeons and Dragons and stuff came out, because people
D&D
were
was one of the ones. D&D was to the Satanic Panic what Mortal Kombat was to the Columbine controversy and the rating of gaming controversy kind of thing. Like it was not the only one that was in the Satanic Panic kind of thing, but it was definitely one of the ones that was one of the first things that they pointed to in that whole kind of thing. And we're comparing people saying like, hey, do you respect trans people playing your fucking game, to the Satanic Panic, obviously is a pretty gross disparity. And this morning it says they plan to start their own gaming convention at Gen Con. It compared the recent feedback to the Satanic Panic and said that this morning it plans to start their own gaming convention after Gen Con said it wouldn't be welcome. It's not clear who is running the account, which after a series of accusing folks and bullying and spitting on Gary Gygax's legacy, but NASA looks to be at least somewhat involved. So my first question, Jake, what does this mean for D&D? Is D&D scarred by this? Did D&D just get J.K. Rowling'd?
I mean, this is the son of the creator, and obviously he's got a pretty big name within the community. And it, from a lot of it, it just seems like it's one of these I hate to kind of like shit on people who live in basements, but this dude just obviously lives under some sort of rock. He, has a lot of outdated views. And, hopefully he didn't get those from his dad, which I think is one of the biggest ones that kind of like sticks out for anybody that's kind of a fan of the game. But then I don't know. Like, I also have a problem, not a problem, but I have a hard time even on the J.K. Rowling thing, because I still want to play the new Harry Potter video game, and so it's like one of those where you don't want to support these people, but their art brings a lot of joy to folks, right? And I think if D&D is, if you're still playing it and a lot of people are playing it and you're having fun, and say like, I mean, there's plenty of people within the LGBT plus community that play D&D.
Oh yeah.
And so like, I don't think we should take away outlets of joy. But I think it's good to educate people.
Are fucking critical to the queer community.
Yeah.
Like in general, that's a very, very important thing. You're talking about a game that was some people's first bridge into being another character, or sometimes even a first bridge into being their true selves. Yeah. And I don't think that a lot of the Gygax family really understood that that's what kind of things that they were dealing with when they first created something like D&D, but it's absolutely what they were. You hear like about like trans people that will go to Starbucks and then that's how they'll try out a new name kind of thing. Well, Dungeons and Dragons was a way for people to try out new identities, new personas, or things that, and it might not even be as far as gender identity, or it could be spiritual identity. It could be your whole fucking race. You could be a fucking orc if you wanted to, goddamn it. Like, fuck.
It's that escapism and everything. Yeah. I think is something that everybody kind of needs, especially folks within marginalized communities, right? And so it's just one of those where, like, I don't think this should necessarily tarnish D&D going forward. I think if people have fun doing it, they should still have fun doing it. But just like always be educated on what's going on around it. Know that this guy's a piece of shit and don't support him. There's a whole nother side of the company that says they don't support him, and that they're starting their own thing or whatever. And so like follow that, support that. Fuck this guy.
Right. It seems that they severed their ties with him pretty quickly right off the bat there. Sax, how important is it to create belonging in gaming, even when the creators are shitty people?
It's important to have a belonging in the game, especially in something like a D&D where you were talking about having your identity, you know what I'm saying, and being something else and being someone else. And like having that type of freedom to do that, and like how Jake said, especially in marginalized communities, because it's like there's stuff that and I'm gonna say I'm a part of that. We go through a lot of shit, and this is a way of escapism. You feel what I'm saying? And to be in that position where someone comes along and the creator, and like I said, it's not the direct creator. The creator's son says something off kilter, and it's problematic. For me, it's like still, like you need to still be able to enjoy what it is that makes you happy, but know that, this dude going forward, he feels how he feels. He doesn't rock with me like that. Is that a complete representation of the entire company? Is that a complete representation of the entire culture? And no, the answer to that is no. So, so it's important. So it's kind of hard. I like how what Jake said. It's like you don't want to take away people's happiness. You know what I'm saying? When you belong to something, when you feel like you belong, like that's a place of happiness. It really, really is. And that's that's where I'm at with it.
I think it would be something that would be more harm than anything else to take away role-playing games, especially like D&D, from the queer community, and say that we're not going to participate in this at all because of Gygax's Jr.'s response, especially with the severability that the company has had from it. And, one, there are other role-playing games out there that you can play. So that is one thing. Two, the other aspect of it is that, while there's so many other aspects of the company that have come out and said that this is what this table is so much bigger than Gygax, than Ernie. And there were plenty of people that did reach out to this individual that were impacted by this and said, hey, that this guy is not a part of what we stand for, and our table has always been open to everyone. And so the biggest thing I want to put out there is that like the idea that we had originally of D&D, especially within the queer community, of it being that kind of thing, is not. This doesn't make that a lie. This doesn't make that false. And so with that, we need to take that aspect back. Speak specifically to the queer community, the aspects that were real to us. And that may be a long, drawn out, too up high in the sky answer for that, but that's kind of how I feel on it personally.
I guess, is it shocking that this guy's an incel? That's the big one, like in a way. I mean, like historically D&D, like I think over the years it's definitely like grown and, it's found more of it's been more open, the tables have definitely opened up, right? Like, but I think, at a time we would have considered, like D&D folks not necessarily to be, the most open, especially like some of these Magic the Gathering things back in the day, like gamers in general. Gaming in general, especially tabletop gaming, for a long time, could be considered a toxic community. And so, like, I wonder, like, is it really surprising this guy's an incel? Like, because it almost never shocks me when creators are shitty, because it's always we as the consumers get it, and then we take it to incredible heights and open it up to our friends and do all this cool stuff with it. And then I seem to always find that the creator like had a more closed-minded idea of it.
There's an ugly misogynistic, gross side of gamer culture. We all know it exists. We all seen it. We've all talked about it plenty, and we've all gotten really good at ignoring it when we're playing games too. But I think that Ernie really resonated with a lot of that kind of stuff. And I think that the fact that stuff like this is now a big controversy is now something that D&D companies are like, no, we're not, we don't work with Ernie anymore. Fuck that shit. We're not a part of that. Now that they have that kind of attitude towards it, that does show you that something is changing, that the needle is moving forward. And I think that is a good thing.
Facts.
Yeah, it's just not good for business to do anything like that, to talk about your community like that. It just doesn't work out. It's like you're in like, even if you're a private entity, like you are a private entity serving something to the public, what I'm saying? And the queer community, the LGBT community is a part of that public.
Exactly. Right.
And so you don't want, to shit on them and then expect everything to be straight. That's not how this is going to work. You know what I mean? It's like you're gonna get some some backlash from that. Obviously, they distance themselves from them altogether. You know what I mean? And that's something his father created. And it's like but peace. You know what I'm saying? Because he opened your mouth and said something.
And it's not something small either. It's fucking Dungeons and Dragons. Like it's a big fucking entity. It's not
a big
like
brand.
It's
a big
not
brand.
Like, this is my dad who filmed the Green Hornet movie. No, this is fucking Dungeons and Dragons.
No, and it's a big name brand, product. That's one of those things that it has a very diverse audience. And so, like Sax was saying, like, for the founder's son to try to almost close it off to a portion of the audience that it's obviously found throughout the years.
Right.
That's just bad business.
But also, while this seems so obvious to us now, though, think about during Gamergate. Like, would it have been that obvious then? Would that have been something that people have been like, oh, there's two sides to this coin, and like that is something that I do think a couple of years ago that may have not been as nearly as big a deal. But again, I do think the fact that people are kicking and screaming and throwing pitchforks up now, even though it looks messy, even though it looks bad, even though there's gonna be fucking boomers that complain about cancel culture and all that bullshit, it is moving the needle in the right direction.
Yeah, it's just consequences.
It's consequence. It's consequence culture, not cancel culture.
Yeah.
But anyways, that will bring us to our modular segment tonight. We've got a really good one for you guys. We're returning back to the water cooler for the latest and greatest Marvel series to talk about what's happened now and what's going to happen in that final episode. So we've got our water cooler for you. Roll that intro, Gabe.
Hey.
That's right. We've got another Marvel TV series to discuss by the water cooler, and luckily for us, it is one of a bit of a timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly. Loki is the latest and greatest Disney Plus Marvel series, and it's been a wild ride through time and space so far. Oh, and as far as most water coolers go, spoilers ahead. Spoiler warning: you have been warned. The alligator is in the water cooler. With only one more episode.
I love
that.
I
feel like that is a like that could be a southern idiom.
Yeah.
The alligator is in the water cooler.
Y'all better get a drink. Yeah, they're gonna drinking because the alligator's in the water cooler.
Exactly.
Said that and fell off of a porch.
With one more episode of Marvel's Loki left, the need for answers has reached a critical point. It is the absolutely overflowing with Easter eggs. Episode 5 of Loki, Journey to Mystery. Loki finds himself in the void, a place where pruned realities wind up, wasting around to be consumed by a massive, smoky Zool-type beast called the Alanoth. And it's, a Zool-type beast, but it looks like it's made by a jewel pod. It's also a realm that just so happens to have more Loki variants than anyone else because, well, Loki's tend to survive no matter what. We killed Loki, 3 times in the MCU, so that stands up. Together with a gang of only slightly devious versions of himself, including an alligator, Loki and Sylvie figure out a way to double enchant Aloeth in order to get through to it and over to it into the world beyond, a world seemingly being protected by the monster, and which the house is a huge space. Anyways, there's a lot of things going on in this series, okay? Meanwhile, Judge Renslayer also claims to be after this mysterious manipulator, but how much of the truth is she really telling? Is she truly in the dark about the TVA's creation, or does she know exactly who's in the castle? With one finale remaining, it's time to crack open the journey into mystery and muse around and where's ahead. So before we get too far into it, I want, as far as the ramp up goes, episodes 1 through 4, we started off with a very pretty much Loki in a scene that we've seen him in plenty of times before. We saw him in Infinity War. We saw him there at the end of Avengers. And all of a sudden, that's where this whole series takes place, in that one moment that he's abducted from the timeline right there. And so what are your thoughts on, just the kind of how this series has begun? It's really, to me, snowballed from that first episode. The first episode was like, okay, we're introducing the TVA. Okay, we're introducing, all of these other aspects of the TVA. And all of a sudden, we're getting to, more of Loki. Okay, the Loki that they're after is girl Loki. Okay, all this stuff. It seems to me like completely
Loki.
Okie dokie Loki, now we've got 5 Lokis and one of them's a fucking alligator. It's just like snowballed from there. How do you guys think about the pace of Loki? Is this been something that's been digestible, or is it too fast, or is this no, this is what TV should be? Jake, let's start with you.
I will say I missed the week I was in Atlanta. I missed an episode, and I was gone for a whole week, and so I came back the day before the next episode aired. So I just waited until that one did and binged 2 of them back to back. And watching episodes back to back was a much better experience. I don't know what it was, especially about those 2, but I kind of wish I almost would have waited for all this to be out so I could have just binged it straight through. Because man, being able to watch multiple episodes of it was really fulfilling. And I feel like the pacing's been all right. It hasn't been too fast or anything. For me, I think it's been going pretty good. As a matter of fact, I think there was a little bit of I don't want to call it a filler episode, but on the episode when they found out about the timekeepers being fake, I know that was such a huge reveal and everything, but it kind of felt like that just episode didn't feel like it. It was not a nothing burger, but it just kind of felt like we could have done that a little quicker.
Sorry, which episode was that you're talking about?
When we found out that the timekeepers were just robots.
Oh. I mean, to me, I felt like that episode all the way up until that point, I was like, I was checking to be is there more? Is this only 4 episodes of Loki? Is it a 4-episode season long?
Yeah, it's coming to an end.
Because it seemed very final episode-y.
It did. It did. It felt like a build-up, and then I don't know. I think them maybe being robots was what let me down or something. I don't know. That was a weird one for me. That was the only episode that I kind of got a little But then I've liked every episode so far. I've liked the pacing of it. The last episode 5 that's setting up for the season finale, that was a fucking awesome episode. I think that's the reason why you've seen so many breakdowns from it. It had to have the most Easter eggs of an episode we've seen. So far. The frog Thor. Oh my god,
Thor,
that shit was fucking awesome.
That was great. That was so great. Sax, what have you thought about Loki so far? We were on Sea of Thieves yesterday, and we were trying not to talk about it. So now let's talk about it. What do you think?
This series, it admittedly being the first of the Marvel Disney Plus series that I've watched, it's been really, really good. Especially seeing, like when we see Loki take the Tesseract and he disappears, in Endgame, and it's like, okay, what happens? And then you get this, and it's like, I'm expecting something completely different. It's like, okay, he's about to go off, and then he gets snatched up by the TVA, and I'm like, what is this? You know what I'm saying? So it was kind of like, in the beginning, like, what are we doing here? And then as it goes along, and where the rubber meets the road, and again, we've already talked about spoilers, when he escaped and he went back to the to the front desk, and he was like, I'm told the dude, I'm gonna gut you like a fish. And he was like, what's a fish? And it was like, that already was kind of fishy. No intended. And then he opened up the drawer and there were infinity stones.
Oh my God.
And my man's was like, we use them as paperweights. It's like,
what a way to simply flip a whole entire cinematic universe on its head. In one scene, right? Like you saw those infinity stones in there. That's what fucking Guardians of the Galaxy was about. One of those fucking rocks in there. That the whole fucking movie. And fucking Thor, The Dark World was about one of those rocks. The whole fucking movie. And there were huge aspects of the universe uses paperweights, and just instantly flips the whole universe on its head.
It's such a huge thing, and like you said, the rubber really met the road there, because it was kind of this thing of like, in every Marvel movie up until this show, essentially, those stones were the most powerful thing you knew. Like you put them together and you have the power to pretty much do anything. That's Thanos, right? And so like then you see them just being used as paperweights, and Loki even says it is this the greatest power in the universe? Is this God kind of a thing? Like, is this the fucking thing that's is this bigger than Thanos or anything that we've ever fought? And so it's really, the show really has taken, I think it is kicking the next phases of Marvel's cinematic universe into high gear. It is getting everyone prepared for the next phase, who's going to be the next big bad, and it's changing the way we think about Marvel and the powers that may be within the Marvel universe.
Yeah, I mean, it's really we've talked a lot about the teasing of a lot of the Spider-Man stuff that's been coming out. You heard about William Dafoe potentially being the actual big bad because of all these, different timelines, stuff like that. Well, they're introducing different timelines. They're introducing variants of versions of a character. They're basing a whole show around that. And I think that Kevin Feige has talked about how the events of Loki and the events of WandaVision are going to be some of the biggest founding events for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And one of the big theories out there that we've seen is that Kang the Conqueror. We know that we've heard a little bit about Kang the Conqueror in the series. We've seen his statues at the TVA, but Kang the Conqueror, the idea that a lot of people are throwing out there is that instead of conquering different worlds in this universe, they're going to create a Kang that conquers different timelines. In order to capture all of reality and conquer all of reality, which would make him the biggest of big bads. So I think that is a really cool aspect that they're kind of starting to build towards, just like they were starting to do with the Infinity Stones. And I think one of the first steps you do with that is turning those Infinity Stones into paperweights.
Oh yeah, no, this guy's got to be bigger than Thanos, right? Yeah. And we already know Kang's, or the Conqueror is one of the big bads. It's already been kind of like cast and everything, and so I think it's not just one Kang. I think it's multiple Kangs. If you look into the comic history, that's kind of one of the biggest things, is that there's the young Kang that joins I think a Young Avengers at one point as under a different name. But then like Kang the Conqueror is linked to all kinds of different things, like as far as mutants, the Fantastic Four. He could really usher in all kinds of like Marvel things that we've had missing for years. Yeah. And so I think that's where we're headed to.
Yeah. What do you think the deal is with Ravonna Rainslayer, Sax?
She's definitely shiesty. Like there's no getting around that. Like I honestly think she knows a lot more than what she's putting on.
Yeah.
And it's evident, like right. in how like her actions and everything like that. Even though she might feel honestly, if I could say it, I feel like she is completely aware that she's a variant, or she's not, she's the original copy and is absolutely aware of everything that's going on and hasn't been brainwashed by the TVA.
Interesting. In the comics, Ravonna Rainslayer, she's like Kang's right-hand girl. Like they've fallen in love in multiple comics and different timelines and things like that. And so I think she's just another ode or like another nod to like Kang's coming, kind of a thing. And so I think that's her whole deal, is that we're going to actually see her meet Kang and we're going to see that romance kind of like start off in a way.
Yeah.
Because I think she may not know who's in the mansion just yet. So like I don't necessarily like completely agree that she knows everything that's going on right now. I think she's about to find out. I think Miss Minutes, honestly, that's been one of my favorite theories. Miss Minutes is behind it all. She's like, I am the beginning and the end, y'all.
I love you.
I mean, that's not but that is not far out there, actually. Like, I could see that as a kind of like a very Gladys kind of front kind of thing, like an iRobot kind of situation where it's like, oh, howdy, y'all, and I would love for Tara Strong to be the end all villain. Like, let's have that happen,
Yes.
I'm telling you right now, I'm calling it. Ultron is Miss Minutes. And
also, hey, shout out to Tara Strong for being also one of the another actor that's been able to cross over from DC to Marvel.
Yeah, for real.
Right?
Shouts out.
Shouts out. Snaps.
Snaps the one time.
Yeah. Do you guys
sexy voice for the one.
Oh, right. Exactly. Do you think this has expanded on Loki's powers? The reason I say this is that particularly that scene when he's sitting there in the apocalypse in that one place and that building falls down and Loki goes woof and throws that building back up. I don't think we ever saw that Loki before that could fucking throw buildings back up at the drop of a fucking hat. What do you guys think? Do you think they made Loki more powerful? Do you think they nerfed him? How do you feel about it?
I think he's like about where he should be. And here's why I say it's about where he should be. Because we all saw Avengers when the Hulk, just basically ragdolled his ass. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And he was okay. You know what I'm saying? Essentially. So I feel like this is about right. But I will say this. I feel like there is more about him that he doesn't know. And that's absolutely evident in the 5th episode. Yeah. When the whole enchanting of Alioth thing, when that was going on. And she was like, you need to enchant him. And he was like, I don't know how. And she was like, you do. Because I am you and you are me, basically.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm
saying? The older Loki basically making all of Asgard. He recreated all of Asgard so that it could be a distraction.
That was cool.
And then Loki literally has the line, I think Lokis are stronger than we thought we think we are. Right. Yeah. And so I don't think it has expanded his powers, but with the Infinity Stone kind of comment earlier, if you think about it, it's expanding everybody's powers in a way. Like I think what we've watched in the first phase of the MCU was Naruto, and now we're getting into Avenger Shippuden. And so like we're about to start seeing like crazy shit going down. You're gonna be like, whoa,
oh my God,
Iron Man
somebody
can do that?
Fucking clip that.
I mean, not Iron Man, but like just one of these. Going into Avengers Shippuden. That's where we're going.
Yeah, no, I think that's solid. That's a good way of putting it. I think that. Well, with that said, like we talked about the OG Loki pulling up the whole, making Asgard and summoning that. Who's y'all's favorite Loki variant of all of them out there? I'm gonna go ahead and take the obvious one, which is the Croc, because it's Crocodile Loki. What's not to love? I think that. Yeah, I mean he was the king shark of the situation. If I had to pick a second, it's President Loki, just because he seemed to be the most Loki of them. Like it's like He was like, no, I actually went balls to the walls and did what I was saying I was gonna do. Which incidentally, the President Loki run was written in 2016.
That's hilarious. Yeah. I'm getting a pop of President Loki. I saw they came out with him and I'm like, that's one that I am definitely getting. Like Loki in the suit just looking crazy. Like, I mean, I'd vote for that Loki. And so, but I would say my favorite variant has to be like the old Loki that conjured up all of Asgard. Like that dude was wise beyond his years. He showed what happens whenever a Loki kind of like gets to know themselves and who they are. Because like you said, he stepped away from the whole situation and just left and pretty much went to go meditate alone. Yeah. And found himself and found out how much power he had. And that's how he was able to do that shit, and he showed our Loki, I guess Loki from, Earth 1035 or what, like whatever one we want to say, just how strong he could be. Right. And so but yeah, I mean, obviously Crocodile.
What do you think about, what do you think about the OG Loki though, in his comment about how he deceived Thanos?
Oh yeah.
Because that is a big fan theory that's out there. Because that's the only time that Loki has ever stabbed anyone with his left hand in the MCU, because Loki is right-handed, is when he stabbed Thanos. And the big fans say that is our indication that this is actually a projection of Loki, because Loki's known to do that, right? He's faked his death a number of different times, and so that is. What do you guys think? Does that confirm that theory to y'all, or how do you feel about that? Sax, I'll start with you.
This kind of it's an interesting take, because I really never even thought about it like that, but it was interesting to hear the OG Loki say that he deceived Thanos and was able to basically get away from everything that was going on. Do I find that likely? Yes. Actually, I mean, he literally is the god of mischief. So knowing that his power compared to that of Thanos is, not going to be doing too much, why would he willingly put himself in a position where he is going to himself actually be killed? You know what I mean? So it makes sense. You know what I'm saying? And he's a problem. Like Loki is a problem ultimately, because we talk about when he went by himself and like listening to him talk, you can hear the wisdom in that Loki. And it was just amazing to sit and just look at it. And I just loved the 1970 costume that he had on. It was just fantastic. Right. It was tired. It was like, I'm tired, guys. I've been around for a long time. See the Thanos copter sitting out here. I've been here. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy, but do I feel like it plays a part in it? Do I feel like that's it's projected that way? I do, because it fits his motif.
I thought it was funny that Kid Loki killed Thor, but they didn't seem too happy about it. Mm-hmm. And there's a big theory that because there's a scene in one of the other Avengers games where Thor says something about Loki pretending to be a snake because he loves snakes. Mm-hmm. And then when he picked him up, Loki changed into Loki and then stabbed him. Mm-hmm. And it was a prank, right? And he survived being stabbed. I don't think Loki was really trying to kill him. They're both gods, Mm-hmm. But then there's a theory that since that's a kid, that's around the age when he would have transformed into the snake and did that prank, and that it was the prank gone wrong, that he accidentally did kill Thor when he stabbed him and everything like that. And so that's why that Loki is a variant, and TVA's after him because he accidentally killed Thor. And so I thought that was a pretty cool little way that Marvel fans are outrageous. The way they, especially on TikTok these days, man, they're quick. Yeah. When it comes to putting two and two together.
I've got nothing on Straw Hat Goofy's timing. He's on top of that shit. That dude gets
advanced the showings, and you can't convince me otherwise.
I was really happy to see Mobius again. Jake, how did you feel about seeing Mobius come back?
Yeah, dude. I mean, obviously, it's cute that Loki and is it Sylvia? What do they call her? Sylvie. Yeah, the female Loki. It's cute. They were putting them together, and that's the big Nexus moment. But I think the relationship we all wanted to see was Loki and Mobius, and so just two bros back at it again, high-fiving and loving each other. That's all I wanted to see. I've loved Owen Wilson.
The real relationship I want to see is Mobius and the jet ski.
Mobius and the jet ski, exactly.
That's the relationship I want to see.
Yeah. I like Owen Wilson in this role. I'm not going to lie. I mean, it's not that I don't like Owen Wilson, too. Let me make that very clear. It's just that, when I first saw him, I was like, oh, interesting. Owen Wilson. That's cool. Big name actor, playing kind of a smaller role or whatever. But it's nice. I've liked him as Mobius. I think the back and forth with him and Loki has been, one of the better parts of the show.
Yeah. Have you been wowed by Mobius' appearance? Sax? Wow.
In fact, I have been. It's like how Jake hinted at, the banter between the two of them like from a person who does like performance and stuff like that, the chemistry that Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson have when it comes to their relationship, it's really, really solid, and it's like, it's kind of like touching. So like when you see what happens in episode 4, what happens to Mobius, and it's like, because you've seen everybody got hit with that staff of justice. That's what I'm calling it.
Right.
So they're done. You know what I'm saying? It's like their molecular situation is over with. So in that line, it was so hard when he was like, you know what? Actually, if I could go anywhere in time, where I would actually want to go is back to wherever you guys took me from before you erased my. And then
I know that's
like a big like.
Yeah, and then he got, you know what I'm saying? And I was
it's very Thanos snappy.
Oh, yeah, it was. I was like, I felt some kind of way 4 episodes in, and I was like, yo, that's that. And you could see the hurt on Loki's face.
Yeah.
Too, because they had developed a bond in a relationship. So to see him pull up in the, what was that? A truck? A little, was it the Griswold family van? Was that what that
Pretty
was?
Much. It reminds me of the Wayne's World mobile, like the little like little bug that they drove, or whatever the fuck you call those things, like a little Pinto Cruiser or something.
Yeah.
So that made me feel so much better when he pulled up. You know what I mean? But I knew something was going to be along those lines when Loki got, and I was like, oh yeah. So obviously he's going to be around too. So
yeah. Who do you really believe it's behind it all, Jake? Like, who do you think's running this at the end of it? Who's the big string puller?
Yeah, I think it's Kang the Timekeeper. Like there's a whole like comic essentially like build up where, like I said earlier, I kind of hinted at it. I think there's multiple Kangs, but I think it's because the future Kang, which is the big one, eventually they decide that Kang conquers everything, and he has this one singular timeline that he keeps, and that's the sacred timeline, right? And so like right now, I think this timeline that we're living in for most of the MCU has been under the guidance of Kang. And so like I think like what we're going to see in this second phase is them defeating him and breaking out all of these different timelines where we're going to be able to bring in mutants and all that stuff, and it's really going to I think eventually cover up all the holes that have happened by Marvel not owning Sony, or not owning Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four and mutants and everything, and the X-Men, because Kang is related to all of those. The original Kang is actually like the great grandson of Mr. Fantastic, and he uses Dr. Doom tech to go back in time. He's the first person to ever travel in time. He goes back in time to ancient Egyptian times, tries to like rule and take over then, and ends up creating Apocalypse, which is like the world's first mutant. And so like I think there's so many things they can do to bring in all of those different aspects, and the Kang's the big bad here. There's a lot of other things too. Like there's been a lot of theories about the mansion and it being kind of like the house of like there's like the House of Mystery or something like that. I can't remember like what it's called, because there's a lot of comics that play in these last few episodes of Loki, and this whole Loki series and the WandaVision series and all these series in general. They've been pulling up so much comic. Yeah, House of Doom. There you go. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so like that's the big one, is that there's just so many comics that they've been pulling in. It's hard to tell right now who's going to be in that mansion and who's pulling the strings, but I think it's one version of Kang, and some people do think it's Loki. I saw that in chat. Some people actually do think that it's Loki at the end of it, which would be hilarious. I think if the big string puller is a Loki.
Yeah. Who do you think's pulling the strings at the end? Sax?
Stan Lee. Like quite literally.
Oh, rip.
I know.
Pouring out.
But, that's my serious answer. that's what I have.
His last cameo appearance.
Yeah, big facts.
It would be funny because they would have like a CGI Stan maybe as like the creator or something like that. Like one of those guys. It's like, and he's like, cool. I made all of the beginning and I made the middle, but I haven't finished the end. Excelsior.
I probably would shed a tear if that were the case.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, so like in the Matrix. Exactly.
Yeah. Are we all pretty much on the same page though, that Kang is Kang? Is this all just setting up for Kang? Like that is, and I think that it's really cool because like we're saying it before, like we've really even seen Kang, right? That we know that he's the next big bad.
We just know he's cast, and we know that he's in the new Doctor Strange, but that's all we know.
You know, and the new Ant-Man, and you know, a bunch of different other stuff out there, and so like. To me, like, again, we don't know he's the big bad, but it's also like Thanos was. Like, Thanos was the same way. Everyone's like, oh, this is just setting up for Thanos. Like, oh, they had an Infinity Stone in this one episode. This is obviously the setting up for Thanos. Thanos. And then there's one purple smile at the end of a movie. No one's like, oh my God, you know, fucking losing their mind. And that's the same thing that's happening here with Kang. You know, and so I think that the buildup is very similar, and that buildup is a good buildup. They're if it ain't broke, don't fix it, you know?
Yeah. And so I think this whole second phase or fourth phase or whatever the fucking phase, because they have them, you know, different names, whatever this next big chunk, which will essentially be the next 10 years of our lives, by the way, guys. Think about that for a minute. I was talking to a buddy about it. It took 10 years for us to go from Iron Man to Endgame, right? And so I think we're just now about to start seeing those Iron Man movies again. And then that means that they're setting up for another Endgame in the future, right? And
if they follow the same path,
if they follow the same path, which could be another decade of Marvel movies, and I don't know why corporate would want to, go off of what they've seen as worked so far, right? And there's so much stuff that they can bring in through all the years of comics too, and so like it's just one of those where like I think I'm gonna be 40 years old before I finally see him beating the fuck out of Kang. Like in full force, and it's gonna be like it's gonna be glorious though. I mean, I'm all here for it, but I do like to set that expectation. I think a lot of people are like Kang, and we're about to start seeing him in some of the movies. But if we actually get Kang fighting in the Ant-Man movie or whatever, then Kang's not gonna be the big bad for the next phase. Yeah. That's one of the things that he's going to be like a rodent or whatever that guy's name was that was like in 2 or 3 movies, the Guardians of the Galaxy thing that, you're like, oh shit, he's kind of scary, but then they end up beating him, or Loki, how Loki was kind of just like an off the side villain for 1 or 3 movies, And so, and then if that's the case, the big bad is Mephisto. They're bringing it Brown Circle. They couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it in WandaVision, so they're bringing them all the way back around.
And so that's my theories.
Mephisto confirmed. There you go. All right. So last question for you guys. We got 1 episode left. Where do you think this is all going? Sax, let's start with you.
You know what? There's so many ways I can go about this, but one thing that I would find like very interesting if it were to like repeat itself, like he would find himself back where he had appeared with the Tesseract, but was knowledgeable of the TVA at that point and able to just move on and do something else. You know what I mean? And try to change things based off of that with the knowledge he's had from going through everything he's gone through in the TVA and the void and all of that stuff. So like, it's like, I'm very excited for the finale. I'm very anxious to see what's going to happen. But that's one of the theories that I have. So, yeah.
Right. Jake, what are your thoughts?
I don't know who's going to be the big wizard behind the curtain, right? Like, I'm not 100%. Like, obviously, some, like I said, it could be Kang or a version of Kang. There's multiple versions of Kang, right? And so, but I think what's really going to happen is, Sylvie is going to get a second chance at her life. Loki's going to sacrifice himself in some way to make sure the TVA never takes her as a child and that timeline gets to kind of like live on. But in that event is the creation of multiple timelines. Because right now, like I said, I think we've all been playing on this singular timeline that Kang has been holding on to. And so I think that Loki's going to do something. They're going to make some sort of Nexus event that kind of like maybe gives her life back. And, Loki's going to have to make that grand sacrifice. That's just my big crazy, conspiracy, I guess you could call it.
My plot twist is that Sylvie's the real enemy after all at the end of this. Sylvie, so there's a lot of hints out there that Sylvie is not really a Loki, that she is Enchantress. And I think that could be a possibility. Now, Enchantress is typically a villain, and Loki is typically a villain, so they would seemingly be on the same side. But I think that this is kind of Loki's hero arc story, and that at the end of the day, that there's going to be something along the way that they need that Loki, that Sylvie needs that Loki for to complete the end of her quest with the Timekeepers or whoever's at the end of the tunnel. But I think that it's end up going to be that Sylvie betrays Loki. That's my prediction.
That would be an interesting one.
No lie.
Yeah. But I mean, shit, we'll see Wednesday, baby. I'm excited. This has been one of the better Marvel shows they've had so far. I think, like, I mean, I'm gonna do my ranking after the finale, but for right now, this one's on par with the WandaVision for me. Yeah. It's been really good.
I have loved everything that's come out so far, and if I had to order them, I would put Loki at the top and Falcon Winter Soldier in the middle. But I know that everybody else likes WandaVision better. But that's just me. But
it's my least favorite, and I still watched every episode and looked forward to it. So it's not like they haven't been bad. Marvel's been doing pretty good on Disney Plus so far, in my opinion. I've been enjoying the little side shows. They've been fun, and it's a great way to expand the universe and tell more stories.
Oh yeah.
100%.
And this Loki one's been just nothing but further proof of that shit. Give me more Lokis. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. All right, well, that will do it for the first half of our show. We're going to take a quick commercial minute break to pay our bills real quick. But before we go, we want to make sure, thank you so much. Who was that? Teen Sweden. TD Sweden for the follow there. We appreciate that. Welcome to the Nerd Herd. Good to have you guys. We've had a lot of people in chat. Caperdoodle, Savage Patch, and Littlest Nelly also shares a birthday with James Gunn, as we found out today. That August 5th birthday. So for Littlest Nelly's birthday, they're getting Suicide Squads. That's pretty awesome.
Toddly Awesome said earlier that one's got to go. Is it his Toddly Awesome turtlenecks, Sax's robe, or Jake's Supreme headband? I said impossible choice. Impossible choice.
Impossible choice.
I would lose this robe because it's hot as f. Do you understand?
It's not the heat, it's the humidity.
I feel you. Yeah, thank you guys so much for the follows and for the attentions and everything else like that. When we get back, we're going to be talking about we're going into our deep dive, and we've got a great one. We're going to be talking about the power of nostalgia. And why it's so goddamn profitable. And on top of that, we're going to be talking about the top 10 games that need to be remade as soon as we possibly can. So don't go anywhere. There is plenty more to come. We'll see you guys in 5.
Be right back.
And we're back. And we've got a great deep dive for you. A deep dive that is one for you to remember for all of time and probably look back on years from now. If this is future me watching the reclip of this video, hi, you're coming back here for some nostalgia, and that's exactly what we're talking about tonight. Nostalgia brings us back to the past and unearths the emotional memories associated with those times. Do you remember playing Donkey Kong on your N64? I do. Or maybe your parents got you the 21st century version of your Wii. Perhaps that game was your escape from reality during a dark time, or memories of playing that game with your friend remind you of simpler times. Nostalgia has been proven to make us happier by counteracting boredom, loneliness, and anxiety, reminiscing on happier times, and also making us more accepting and generous to others. Nostalgia marketing is a strategy rooted in psychology, and these processes are incredibly effective. So tonight, we're going to discuss why nostalgia sells. Before we get started, I want to just basically go through what nostalgia is. Jake, what is nostalgia for those that don't know? Like, if you're explaining to someone who didn't know what that word meant, what does nostalgia mean?
Ooh, just in my own words?
Yes.
I
can read you the definition, but
it's that fuzzy feeling you get whenever you see something that you relate to, or it from your past that you have some sort of kind of memory tied to. I think the biggest one in gaming is always classic consoles. Like those games, while like I played Mario 64. The controls are such garbage, but the only reason you play it and tough it out is because of nostalgia and how it makes you feel. And it's kind of like like you said, it helps fight against. It's been clinically proven, like through studies, to help fight against boredom, loneliness, and anxiety. Like that was something whenever we were making this topic that I kind of did a little research on and found out, because there's actually been a lot of research done on nostalgia and the effects on the brain. But that's nostalgia. What clicks in is the same reason why your friend watches The Office 100 times. Oh, yeah. They keep watching the same show and everything like that. It's something about it's almost like an anchoring feeling, because you're used to it. It's familiar.
Yeah. No. To define it by the internet's terms, it's a sentimental longing or wistful affection for the past, typically for a period or place with happy personal associations. And so it is a powerful emotional device, right? As
Nelly said, the feeling from before I had to pay tax.
Yes,
and that's a great way to describe it, because almost everything you're nostalgic for comes from a time before you had to pay the fucking government.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. Sax, why is nostalgia such a selling point? And at that, is it a fair selling point?
It's such a selling point because there are so many people, and myself included, that enjoy going back and doing and experiencing what you have before. Like, for instance, for me, with Mass Effect, on my stream, I'm going back and I'm playing that game. And for nostalgia purposes, I was talking to Comrade Kev about this at the bar. He was like, yo, it's like me playing the game for the first time all over again. And I told him, I said, yeah, I feel that same way, because the last time I played that game was 2007. So you're talking about, for me, that's a year out of high school. You know what I mean? That's a long time ago. And I was like, you know what? It really does feel that way. Yes, the controls are shit. Just like how it is for Shenmue for me on my gaming channel on YouTube. Like, I'm playing through Shenmue and I'm like, I love this game so much, but these controls are god awful.
Bad.
But it's still fun and I'm down to play through it. Now, as far as it's a fair selling point, absolutely. If there's demand for it, you got to supply it. A lot of people, let me tell you something. Final Fantasy VII Remake. How long people were waiting for that? How many? It was, and this is a game, because I went back and I played a little bit of the original Final Fantasy VII, and I'm like, this is going to be amazing. And I didn't even experience it the way that everyone else did, and it's going to do phenomenal. It's going to do great, and I find that it's fair, and I find that it's actually really it's wanted. To be honest with you.
Yeah, no, it is a hot seller. It is a big seller. Jake, is nostalgia a fair selling point to you?
I mean, I think it's fair in the aspect that people want it, right? I think it can be unfair at times that, it does play on, the happier times.
Right.
And it's also can be a little bit of a crutch. I think a lot of franchises like Disney and some of that.
The question,
is I think like a lot of companies like Disney have kind of used it as a way to not be original. Like they can just kind of like pump out a lot of things that they put out, like a new live action Lion King that's called live action, even though it's all CGI somehow. But obviously it sells.
I mean, to be honest, that movie is literally just a better animated Lion King.
It really is. It's just a computer animated. Well, a better computer, a
better animated Lion King.
Exactly. And so
you could boil it down to just that, and that's still true.
And so I get that like a new generation needs these things, and like it's fun to introduce, younger generations to these franchises through a new medium, in a way, or through a new version of the medium in a way. But like, I think I enjoy nostalgia. I enjoy buying things for nostalgia, but to call it fair, it's kind of it's definitely a cheat code.
Yeah, for sure. What brands in your opinion though benefit from nostalgia the most? You talked about Disney earlier. Is Disney really the king of it? And I think that could be a fair argument that Disney is the king of it.
If we're talking about one specific brand, I think Disney has definitely made the most money off of nostalgia out of any other brand. If I had to guess, it's got to be Disney.
I mean, they bought Star Wars, and the first thing they did was just pump out a whole bunch of merchandise, just because like people will buy it for nostalgia.
But you got to give them credit. Disney also created a lot of the franchises that we have nostalgia for. So it's one of those things where, like, yeah, they benefit a lot from nostalgia, but like we're nostalgic over Lion King and Aladdin and, you know, Robin Hood and all of these kind of like movies. Well, I'm nostalgic over Robin Hood.
I get it.
But like, so it's one of those where, like, I definitely think, you know, brand wise, Disney. If I was thinking industry wise, it's got to be the gaming industry has probably cashed out the most on, you know, nostalgia, especially over the years. I think, you know, Nintendo is still making money from, you know, Mario, even, you know, like, and yeah, they're making new ones, but they just even did the whole Switch port not too long ago and charged people $60 for 3 games that came out whenever they were probably children. If not even, you know, like Mario 64 probably came out before some people viewing this was even born, and they just paid $60 for a port of it. And so, you know, gaming is one of the big egregious ones, but I think brand wise, Disney's got to take the cake.
Yeah, no, I would have to agree with you. I think that Disney is probably one of the biggest kings of nostalgia. I think Pokemon is definitely one of them as well. I think that that's one of the biggest things. I mean,
Disney and Nintendo, we can throw them in there. That's the two.
Yeah,
they are the nostalgia kings.
They are huge on nostalgia. Sax, do you think there's anybody else that needs to be mentioned on the list? The bands that benefit the most from nostalgia?
I mean, you could just look at like comics in general, like like that whole situation. Okay, let's talk about it. Superman was made in 1938. Batman was made in 1939. Yeah. We are still talking about those motherfuckers today. And they're still making money today. You know what I mean? So it's there are a lot of brands that benefit from it. But if you
not just chug it along, like huge fucking money making franchises that are still like, fucking gold mines.
Yeah. Like you're talking about at one time the Dark Knight was like on the list of highest grossing movie at one point, like when it came out. Like I think it was like number 2 or something like that. I think it reached number 2 or number 3 or something like that, like on the list, and that's insane, you know. But like, when you want to talk about companies that benefit the most, yes, obviously Nintendo, obviously Disney, because then do you remember the Disney Vault? You know what I'm saying? We're gonna put this in the vault.
Oh yeah, it goes in the vault.
It's over, and then it comes out. We let it go. Blah blah blah.
You're right. No, the Disney Vault was totally just capitalizing nostalgia.
1,000%, man. It's like Mother's Wall. There's like an entire side of the wall that has like all of the Disney movies that are just like there, just like all in the VHS.
Hell yeah. We've got a ton of them in VHS in the original kind of like, you know, little VHS open thing. I don't even think we have a fucking VCR, but we've got a bunch of Disney movies on VHS.
Exactly. Me too. Who knows what a VHS is in this chat?
Yeah. I know, right?
Yeah.
Hey, look! I've got the Star Wars. One of my prized collectibles that I have is the original Star Wars Legendary Collection on the 3 on VHS, because I feel like that's going to be so outdated at one point that it's going to be like, oh, what's a VHS? And I'm like, I got Star Wars, motherfucker, yeah. So, but, and that's
VHS can still win the format wars. I believe in it.
I mean,
oh god,
which is something that I bought simply for nostalgia. I saw those at like I think a pawn shop or something like that, or not a pawn shop. It was a Goodwill, and they were at auction there. I was like, oh, I'll pay $20 for that. You know, I bet you. I was like, they were worth $50 online, so that's at least some value right there.
I was at my grandmother's house one day, and she still has her VHS hooked up to the living room TV. Yeah. And I was like, let's see what tapes I have over here. And I had a fucking old Tom Green, Freddy Got Fingered on VHS. Wow. And my grandma was gone. No one was there. I was like, you know what? I'm going to watch Freddy Got Fingered on fucking VHS like it's 99 or whatever. And like, sure enough, did. And quality not bad. That's what I said. It's definitely, VHS is going to make a comeback, guys.
It's coming back. It's coming back. What is something that you put money into simply for the sake of nostalgia? Zax.
Oh man.
Well, Mass Effect 1.
Like, yeah, I was about to say, like, I was thinking about video games. Like, there's so many, you know what I mean? So it's like, Mass Effect is definitely one of them. Shenmue is definitely another one of them. Like, you know, Final
I
Fantasy.
see you playing Yakuza stuff on stream that's got like N64 graphics. So like,
yeah, it's
yeah.
And you're talking about, and you want to talk about the Yakuza. For me, it's I had never played a single one of those games until this recent one that came out, and now I'm jonesing. And the controls for Yakuza 0 are awful, but I'm gonna play it because it's like it. The story, and I think what for me, I can only speak for me. What ties me so strongly to nostalgia is the storyline. You know what I'm saying? If a game was just fun to play for the sake of playing it, I can live without having playing it again. But
that's why we're still talking about Knights of the Old Republic, and we've talked about it on like 4 or 5 podcasts because of the fucking story.
Exactly. Like that the story is worth it, then I'm definitely down to invest in that. Like for sure. 100%.
Yeah. I mean, something I put money into just for nostalgia.
Uh-oh. Pull it out.
Look at these bad bitches.
Yeah.
That's just a whole bunch of nostalgia money that I just threw down the fucking toilet for flashy cards, man.
Yeah.
This one's rainbow holographic.
Yes, sir. That's
no, I definitely put money into Pokemon cards just for the pure nostalgia of ripping packs, like, and the like what's in them, what am I gonna get, all of that. A lot of games I play. I mean, I think I bought Sword and Shield because of that same Pokemon, nostalgia. And so, you got the Lapras, nice.
I got my Lapras. I really needed that because Lapras is one of my favorites.
The shiny
he's
too.
Pretty boy. He's shiny. He's the VMAX, okay? Which is great for me because Lapras is one of my favorites, and Lapras was competitively viable in this generation because of VMAX. And I got a card to memorialize that. That's fucking great. And the thing for me is I've gotten now at my old age, because I'm not old age, but like just older. I've gotten to the point where I understand where like something is significant and good, and it has such a more emotional impact on me than it did when I was a kid. Like when you enjoyed stuff when you're a kid, that's great. When you enjoy stuff as an adult, you're like, but happiness is fleeting, it's all like it's very different, you understand, you've seen things, you've had pain, you've been through bad parts before. And so like for me, one of the things I know in Sax, I think you can relate to this too. I know there will be some day when we aren't playing Sea of Thieves anymore, and I'll be like, God damn, I miss those days playing Sea of Thieves. I know there will be one day where I will be nostalgic about it. And so when I'm playing that game, I take it more seriously because I'm like, there's going to be one day where I may not have this. Evolve was one of them. When we're looking up some of the stuff today that I found out, there are no longer servers for Evolve. You can't play Evolve if you want to. You can't play it online at all. And it was a great game.
A lot of fun.
A lot of fun, and even if like there's no way to play it because there's no servers online for it. There's a fan that goes out there and makes the servers like they did for fucking a bunch of other different games. Great, but other than that, and because they look at it as a failure because they only have those servers open for 2 years, we're probably never going to get an Evolve again. So that means that Evolve was an experience that only existed for 2 years that some people got to experience, and that's really nice, but that has a value, and people appropriately learn how to capitalize on that value. Yeah. And there are people that don't know how to capitalize on that value. And the thing that happens with that in that vacuum is it just makes you Jones for it even more.
Right. 100%.
Yeah. Do the effects of nostalgia different from generation, or is the concept, or is this a concept that surpasses generational differences, Jake?
Yeah, I don't think it's any different from any other generation. I think I think we all can fall victim to nostalgia because of just what it is. It's a fuzzy feeling you got whenever you were younger. I think that's probably one of the biggest things that pisses me off on TikTok, though, is watching children be nostalgic over things that it'll be Oh man, I remember whenever they used to do this, and it's like, yeah, you remember that? Like, how? You were fucking 5. Like, what are you talking about? Like, and so like you'll see somebody on TikTok, and they'll be like somebody who's 20 years old talking about how much they loved like Courage the Cowardly Dog or something, and you're like, bro, like you watched reruns, like you weren't even there for this. I built this company. You know how much I sacrificed, and so like
comes back around.
Yep.
Where like no, it's weird to see people nostalgic over things that I'm nostalgic over, but it's they may have seen like reruns of it. It's kind of like in the way that whenever we were coming up, TV Land would play old reruns of like Laverne and Shirley and Happy Days and shit like that. And so like even our generation can be nostalgic for watching I Love Lucy late at night kind of a thing, right? But like there's a generation that's nostalgic over I Love Lucy because it was the only fucking thing they had on TV, that was really at the time. And so like it's interesting to me to like see, each generation can be nostalgic over the same things, but in a different way, even, And so, but it's all nostalgia, or it's all nostalgia at the end of the day. And I think we as humans just have it,
Well, the reason I say that I feel that it is different for millennials than it is other generations. I think millennials have a unique relationship with nostalgia in comparison to other generations, and that's kind of the reason why I asked that. I mean,
well, we had the coolest shit to be nostalgic over.
Well, that's true. I think that's the case, but also we were there at a time of such rapid change, and unlike Gen X, we care about shit. We're very much involved with what's going on around us. Gen X is typically apathetic about all the things that are going on around them, and they were just kind of the TV generation and grew up with whatever was on the table in front of them. So the fact that things are changing doesn't really surprise them that much. But for us, when things changed, they actually got significantly worse. There was a time period that for our generation that we can sit there and say, no, the fucking 9/11 and the economy crashed all within like a good period of time. And for a lot of us, things got a lot worse. And so being nostalgic is not just remembering the past and going back to those times because they were simpler. They really fucking were simpler. They really were better, for us. And for us to Jones after that and kind of go after that, it's because we actually want a brighter future. We want the future that we were promised during those days. And so for me, I do feel that millennials have a unique relationship with nostalgia. Sax, do you think that holds any water?
I believe it does. Like I said, especially for us, because we were the age of you. I don't know if a Gen X kid knows what it means to play outside. I don't know if they know what it means to just go out and just outside is your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, like, Gen Z, right? Because Gen X is before us.
Excuse me. Yeah, Gen Z.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So you're talking about that, and like we have like the best of both worlds, if you want to say it like that, because we had to go outside, but we also had the video games that came up. You know what because I lived through the first console I had was the Genesis. And like now there's the Xbox Series X, there's a PlayStation 5 and all that stuff. So to see at the time that was a 16-bit console to what it is now, like it's out of control. And the nostalgia for like it back then, it was so much simpler to just walk to a friend's house and just sit down and just play or do something like that. It was a brighter time. It was it was a brighter future. It was cool. Like to sit and just look at somebody and like there was more appreciation for it now. Like you said, I believe we care a little bit more. And like you said, there were also like historical things that took place that made things, change. You know what I'm saying? Right. I'm not just talking about the 9/11 thing and stuff. Like there was also like if you were from my area, the DC sniper. Like I live in that area. You know what I'm saying? While that was going on. So it was like there were times where
things that made you grow up.
Yeah. It was like we could not. I was in marching band, so obviously we practice outside. There were days we could not go outside because there was somebody outside in the truck sniping people. You know what I mean? So like there's stuff like that. But not that I want that back, obviously not. But it's like when I think about some of those times, it's like it was around then. So it holds weight.
Yeah, and I think I'd
say that nostalgia is what got Donald Trump elected. The boomer generation was so nostalgic for a time when like the Reagan administration essentially that they wanted Reagan 2.0, and so they completely like that generation mixed with a little bit of Gen X, which also came up in the tail end of that whole Reaganomics, thing. They all kind of like band together and got a whole dude elected off of fucking nostalgia. I mean, his whole platform was literally, I'm Ronald Reagan. Like, if you really break it down, like that's what Trump ran on. And so like, it's funny to me that like, we're talking about the power of nostalgia. One of them is like, literally, I think that got a dude elected president. It's because people were so nostalgic.
I think that millennials and boomers reacted to the same kind of generational change and pointing back to different times as better times than any of the other generations. And it's funny is because like you were saying before, Jake, to connect those things. And this is why I asked this question, because I do think each of these generations, as you look at them, have a completely different view of nostalgia. Boomers go point back to a different time that they say is nostalgic, but have a very similar kind of attachment to, like millennials do, to nostalgia, to where you have the power, you can elect a president. But Gen Z, the things that they say, like, oh my, I see it on TikTok all the time, with like, I was so jealous of the people that grew up in this generation. I'm so jealous of the people that grew up with this kind of music or this kind of thing. Or wish it could have been emo, or wish it could have been this kind of thing. And so they're like, in a sense, nostalgic for the things that they weren't even there for, right? Yeah. It's kind of like, if you had to break this down to the stupidest of terms, right? There was a good, a bad thing that happened, and then the bad, okay? They were born in the bad, all right? And all the rest of us went through that big piece and reacted to that differently. And I feel like our reactions generationally are completely different. And Gen X just didn't give a shit about any of it. So that's how I see that. They're apathetic just all around. They're like, oh, whatever's in front of me.
I could do a whole fucking show on that useless generation of like just fucking.
Wow.
I would agree with you, man. I would 100% agree with you.
The fucking most do nothing pick me generation that like has ever existed. I'll do a whole deep dive on that one day. And then I'll do another one on Reaganomics and how Reagan's the devil. And so,
but so I think there really are there are vast differences in the generations between with how at least how we use nostalgia, right? Or how powerful it is for millennials. It is a very much a big money making cash thing.
Oh yeah,
it's the biggest way to millennials' pocketbook.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Can nostalgia alone carry a franchise? Jake.
Oh man, I mean, I think it can. If look at Sonic. We're still getting Sonic the Hedgehog movies, and it's like Sega died a long time ago,
right?
But Sonic ain't dying because of nostalgia. We love Sonic the Hedgehog. And so it's one of those where it wasn't strong enough necessarily to keep Sega afloat, even though it should, like in a way it could have been their Mario if they really, I mean, Sega had a lot of, fuck ups, but it's just one of those where like, but the brand of Sonic himself, nostalgia's kept that guy running for a very long time.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, but I don't think that, for me personally, I don't think nostalgia alone can keep things going.
It's got to be fresh.
I think that's what killed the first. I think that's what killed the first Star Wars in the sequel series. That first one. I mean, all I was doing was just trying to show off the Millennium Falcon as many times as they could, because every single time they could show a trailer with the Millennium Falcon in it, Gen Xers were like, "Oh, here's my money," because that's just how they are about that kind of thing. But Sax, what do you think? Can a franchise alone be carried by nostalgia?
Honestly, I think it's a case-to-case situation. Like the Sonic thing was a great point. Mario also a great, play on that. It's funny enough that the GTA series is another thing, because like when you talk about Grand Theft Auto, even when it was 2D like overhead, and then you switched over to Grand Theft Auto 3, which completely changed everything. Like it carried along. And let's talk about that success for a second. Grand Theft Auto 5 came out in 2013.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember playing it in college.
We're gonna let that sit for a second. That came out in 2013, and it came out for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360.
It's 2 years away from a 10-year anniversary.
Facts, and it's still
Jesus.
relevant. Like believe it or not. So like,
if you would have had a baby when that came out, that whole baby is 8 years old right now. By the time we get the next Grand Theft
That's
Auto
like
franchise,
first or second grade,
yeah,
right?
by the time we get the next installment in the Grand Theft Auto franchise, that kid's gonna be on their way to having a child.
Grand Theft Auto as a third grader. GTA 5 is a third grader.
GTA 5 is a third grader.
Mhm. That's it. But yeah, I don't know if it can carry it fully, but it it definitely has the potential, depending upon, it's like how, like Jake said, it's got to be
It
fresh.
definitely gives it
It's gotta
momentum.
be good. It potentially can. So
Yeah, because I think some folks and some franchises have grasped at nostalgia and used nostalgia as a jumping point, but then that nostalgia wasn't met with a good product. Like Duke Nukem is a good franchise that I loved as a kid.
fair enough.
Should not have been playing that game, but I did, right? Like we all did, right? Yeah, I'm a
Right.
product of the 90s. We got exposed to a lot. But Duke Nukem, obviously, I mean, yeah, the franchise probably it's what some would consider cancelable today. But the guy was he was supposed to be a caricature of those action film big macho motherfuckers, right? And so like he was gonna say some off the wall shit. But they tried to reboot that whole franchise, came out with a game, and then the game kept getting delayed. They put so much money into marketing, even though the game kept getting delayed. And then it finally came out and it wasn't a good game. It just wasn't. And so it was one of those things where even me, as a fan of Duke Nukem, when I got the game and finally played it, it was like, this is just okay. This isn't good. This isn't even all that fun. It's not even hitting the right nostalgia points, except for every now and then a joke would land and you'd be like, oh, ha ha ha, kind of a thing. And so like, there's been plenty of attempts at like launching new franchises based off of nostalgia, and they fell flat on their face because they just came out with a subpar product. You gotta hit them with a 1-2 punch. It's got to be a nostalgic brand that you're already like kind of like feeling really good about and that you want more of, but then it's also got to be a good enough product to like launch more products.
Yep.
Right.
No, I absolutely agree. All right. The final question, I wrap this all up into one. Does nostalgia make things seem better than they were? And with that said, is chasing nostalgia just a way of chasing the past? And is that a healthy pursuit? Is that a healthier thing to do? All those things? Jake.
I mean, I definitely think it does, because Sax brought up a good point earlier. There's things we remember throughout our childhood at different points that we really, really gravitate towards, and we're like, oh yeah, that's fucking awesome. But then at the same time, the DC Sniper was happening. You know what I mean? Right. And so you may not like remember that part, or like whatever, but you remember like the games that you played then, or like things you did to avoid going outside during those times, right? Like I think one of the big reasons I became such a big Xbox guy was because I lived in Mississippi when Katrina got like tore us up. Destroyed the entire coast and a lot of places up north of it. New Orleans got a lot of clout, but Mississippi got fucked up by Katrina. And so we didn't know if we even had a house. Well, we were out of internet service for so long that Microsoft said, you know what? You have Xbox Live for free for like the next year. It ended up being like 3 to 5 years of free Xbox Live before they ever charged me again. And so what do I remember though? Free Xbox Live, not the fact that I was, we survived Hurricane Katrina. Right. And so it's one of those that I definitely think nostalgia can give you kind of rose-colored lenses, of like what happens and like when they happen and things like that. And, like you may remember a game really well because it took you out of your current shitty situation. Maybe your parents used to argue when you were a kid, but then like this game was something like Halo that you could throw on and, the arguments really didn't matter because fuck them, they're adults. I'm playing Halo. Like whatever problems they got, it's not my problem. Right, I'm trying to find out where the sniper's at. 100%, so it's one of those where like I think nostalgia can definitely make things seem better than they were, and but I don't think I don't necessarily like think it's a healthy pursuit, but I don't necessarily think it's unhealthy either. It's like all things, it's moderation, baby. Like you can even do a little heroin in moderation. No, I'm just kidding. but no, like moderation's the biggest thing. Like, I don't ever shit on people who want to eat fast food as long as you're doing it in moderation. It's the same with everything. As long as you're like moderating and not spending more money than like if you're going into debt over Pokemon cards just because you're chasing the high of ripping those packs, seek help, buddy. That's definitely.
I don't need help.
I know, like, Dotson. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm fine.
I'm okay.
Could a mentally stable person do this, Jake?
Yeah, like does a mentally healthy person have the entire jungle set? Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. What about you, Zach? Does nostalgia make things better than they were? And if so, is chasing that past a healthy pursuit?
It definitely does.
Yeah.
It really does make things seem better than what they were. Because just like Jake was saying, even in those times where you had those good things, there were those bad things that were there, but those good things overshadowed, you know what I'm saying? The bad, and that's what you cling to. Yeah. And it definitely make things a little bit more palpable. I mean, because you got to be able to live with this, you know what I mean? And, you come so far, and when you start to look back, when you start to look at things, you look at, oh, this is where I came from. This is what happened at that time. This is what was bad. But this is what was good that I did while that bad was going on. And that good was really good. So I'm going to talk about that good. And I would like to just try that again. It's like nostalgia for me. It's like my favorite Nickelodeon cartoon was Angry Beavers. Like, no lie. Like, that was my shit. And like, I have like today, the complete DVD set, like watch some of it. It's like, I remember how this made me feel when I was a child. You know what I mean? And as an adult, it don't hit the same. You know what I'm saying? It's not supposed to, because we're different. You know what I mean?
Right.
Some things grow, you grow out of, and some things it's like you still connect to. You know what I mean? And as far as it being healthy, now, if I'm pulling from something that I was pulling from in my childhood as a grown ass man, like, that's not healthy. You know what I mean? Because it's like, I'm an adult now. You know what I'm saying? So like, and it's not that I can't, be whimsical and childish in certain times, but it's like I have responsibility now. Right. Like, this definitely didn't teach responsibility at all. So it's like there's nothing to grow, nothing to gain from here. So like I said, and the moderation thing, like Jake was talking about, that's good too. But there's also things that you look back on that were actually good for you, and that still hold weight now, because there could be some stuff that you looked at that you felt some kind of way about in the past. You look at it again with a different lens, and it's like, wow. Even then,
I got a good one for that.
Yeah, I like this then, but now I like this better because I'm looking at it from a different lens. Go ahead.
So, like, going back and looking at things from a different past, I feel like a lot of our generation accepts people. You see a lot of people that are younger tend to be more accepting of people for different sexualities, different genders, different ethnicities, different religions, things like that. I think that you tend, the younger you get, if you're going to go on a high level, the more accepting you'll get. And one of the things I see a lot of different medias that I think were very influential in doing things like that. Because I remember growing up, there was a lot of times where, like, for instance, a lot of racism and bigotry, there was times where it hit like me as a kid, and I was like, that doesn't make sense. Like, I don't understand why we're acting mean towards these people or mean towards these people. Like, I saw them yesterday in kindergarten class, and they were doing just fine. Like, why are all of a sudden we're supposed to be mean towards them or shitty or whatever the case may be? And it was because you'd see a lot of the media. Like, I remember, like, Pokemon is a great example of this. Okay, in order to be successful in Pokemon, you could not have a homogenous team. If you had a team of all fucking Charmanders, you'd lose. If you had a team of all fire types, you would lose, because you needed to build off of the other's weaknesses to build the other's strengths, to build a balanced team that could get past the objectives, or at least, as you get older, you figured out you can have different tactics that you can use. But whatever the case may be, you still need different Pokemon all working together to achieve the same goal. And I was like, wow, I didn't realize how subtle that was, but that did influence how I look at things in life. And Pokemon is just one example of that, but so many examples from, like, media. Like, Rugrats gets a lot of attention as one of the media that like, if you look back at some of those episodes, you're like, holy shit, this definitely influenced my politics going into an adult, and I didn't realize it. Like, there's a lot of things that were pushed onto us as kids through the messaging that, and all of a sudden it didn't resonate with the reality that was around us. And I feel that there's a lot of us that went, there's a difference. We should be talking about the fucking difference and not just acting like, that's a fantasy thing. Maybe that's just me, but
no, I think it is. I mean, there's a lot to be said about, like, going back and watching something. Like, I think a lot of it's funny you even said Rugrats, because I think a lot of the stuff it's funny rewatching Rugrats. you learn to the parents are more relatable the older you get than the children. And it's the same with things like South Park. Like South Park's been around.
Yeah.
It came out in 98. I was 8 years old when South Park aired its first episode. So it's something that I'm not just nostalgic over, but currently watching. Because, they still, they just had the pandemic episode not long ago. And so like South Park's still going, but as it's evolved over the years, I feel less and less connected to the main four and more connected to people like Randy, the dad who's just trying to pay some bills and decided that, what, fuck it, I'm just going to farm weed. And so, it's just one of those where I think it's funny whenever you can go back or you even grow with the things that you're watching and you start to relate to different characters. But if I can add to one thing on the healthiness, I think the reason why that's a really good question is because nostalgia actually gets super unhealthy when people refuse to take in anything new because they want to stick with so many old things. And I think that's whenever it becomes really dangerous to you just as a person too, because I see it happen a lot because I have buddies, I have friends that love to rewatch shows a lot. And I'm like, during the time you're spending rewatching that show, you could be taking in a total new show. It's a comfort thing. I get it. They want to rewatch The Office a million times. But at the end of the day, you're robbing yourself of so many new shows you could be watching, so many new experiences. And so don't let nostalgia also rob you of new experiences.
If you rewatch The Office 5 times and don't watch Parks and Rec ever, you're missing out on Parks and Rec.
Or 30 Rock or any of those. There's so many of those shows, the TBS and, everything kind of pumped out for a little while that were just fucking insanely funny, by the way.
And
30 Rock.
Enjoy it because it's the same audience.
Because it's the same thing. Yeah. If you like The Office, you're going to like Parks and Rec. You may like one more than the other, but it's inevitable. You know what I mean? It's kind of, if you don't, like fucking please, I would like to hear from you. Break it down for me why you don't like You know what I mean?
And here's my controversial pick. The best Office Place comedy is actually Superstore.
Superstore is good, yeah.
Superstore is really good.
I think it's Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell, but
that's a good one too. That's a good one too. Well, after we got all nostalgic in the last segment, we started reminiscing on some of the games that capitalism hasn't been able to cash in on sweet nostalgia for yet. So tonight we're giving them the cheat sheet. These are our picks for the top 10 games that need to be remade ASAP so we can pay $60 for a game that came out when we were children. And I'm kicking us off with number 10 in the countdown, one of my personal favorites, Spore. After a huge success at E3 2006, Spore set to become one of the first games based around the concept of evolution and civilization. Released in 2008, the game has drawn wide attention for its ability to simulate the development of a species on a galactic scope, using its innovation from user-guided evolution to the use of procedural generation for many components within the game, providing a vast scope of open-ended gameplay. This game was truly ahead of its time, and I even played a little bit of it for Free Game Friday, the last Free Game Friday that was out. Go check it out. We had a little creature that we started off from a itty bitty cell, and we didn't get past even the creature stage. But I may even stream some more of it. It hands down was a huge nostalgia for me. As soon as I opened it back up, the first thing I did was I started spending a bunch of hours in the creature creator, because you can just create these different creatures, any kind of creature you could imagine. Well, not any kind of creature you could imagine, but you can really let your creativity run wild. And if you're a creative type like me, that's all I wanted to do, especially because they can populate your world that you're out there and, your little creations. So it's a lot of fun. And again, I think this game was really, really ahead of its time. It still runs pretty wonky when I was streaming it. And is definitely not, it definitely was a game that was not intended to be streamed, for sure. I can't imagine what this game would look like with current gen upgrades, is what I'm trying to get at. If you have the ability to put this on an updated console and you could really expand on the creature creator aspect of it. I mean, there are some parts of it that are kind of hokey and fun and stuff like that, because you're talking about a creature that goes from all the way up from a cell into a complex civilization. And so, all of those aspects are in there. But I think that honestly, on a next gen system with a lot of data out there, this game could be really an amazing game to see remade. Did you guys ever get a chance to check out Spore?
No, but we were talking about it a little bit before, and I was saying that with kind of like the evolution tech or the carryover gene tech that they came out with within like the Beyond Human game that came out. Shit. Anyway, there was a new evolution game that came out not long ago where you get to be monkeys and you basically keep going until evolution. I think it's called Beyond Humanity or something. Yeah. But anyway, that game, if they could incorporate aspects like that into like or even like, just the same old aspects of that game, but updated with newer, like the consoles are so strong. Generating a world based off of like evolution of like one creature and stuff like that, they can do some incredible things. Like it would be insane to see what type of game they could build around this same concept.
Yeah. No, I would love to see a Spore recreated. Did you get a chance to check out any of my Free Game Friday sacks the other day when I did that? If not, you need to.
I definitely need to go back and take a look at it. I came in, I dropped you a lurk. I was in the middle of something else, but I saw you was on Sport. But I definitely need to go back and take a look because it sounds like it's a interesting little situation there. But yeah, you're right. Probably
it's a fun one. And again, I felt like it stole the show in E3 2006, but evidently other people don't, and it never got a chance to shine after that. So
where did you get it for Free Game Friday? Where is it
free
Steam?
On Game Pass, I believe.
Cool.
So. Which is not really free, but it's past enough for me to do Free Game Friday. So,
yeah.
That's been the qualification. But anyways, number 9 on the countdown is another one that definitely has been people. I've heard a lot of people talking about a remake for, or at least wanting a remake for. Jake, what's number 9 on the countdown?
Yeah, number 9 on the countdown is the classic NBA Street franchise. To me, this is the holy grail of sports games and certainly basketball video games. Volume 2 kicked up the whole formula and was excellent to its predecessor and dialed everything up a notch, building the best 3-on-3 basketball game of all time with absurd moves, the iconic Game Breaker system, and an elite soundtrack to match. In the games mode, Be a Legend, players assembled a roster of elite NBA talent from the early 2000s alongside legends and special fictional characters, traveling across the country for pickup games while songs from Black Sheep, Lords of the Underground, Pete Rock and CL Smooth, Nelly and Nate Dogg, and more were just blasting in the background. There are even 3 different versions of Michael Jordan that you can add to your team. The high-flying rookie version, the leader of the 72 Bulls, and are the 72 and 10 Bulls in 96, and are the Wizards Jordan, which, if you're from Washington, hey, shout out. I would pay $100 for an updated version of these 2 games kind of combined with present day players or anything like that. And NFL Street is in the same vein. And I contemplated putting both of these together and kind of did in a way. Both franchises were iconic when I was a kid. NBA Street, NFL Street, phenomenal games. We haven't got anything like outrageous sport game like this in such a long time. It's like it's a dead. I don't want to call it a dying breed because it's dead. They don't make these outrageously fun. I digress. Nintendo does. We get Mario Golf. We get we get the crazy games.
That's true. Nintendo. That's true.
They'll still do it. But like Madden, why so serious? Why is it that we always have to have these fucking hardcore simulation games in sports? And so the NBA Street and the NFL Street were such good I want to say they were like a vacation compared to playing a game of Madden against your boys,
Yeah.
And so that's why they made number 9 on the countdown.
There's no football games where I can run on the side of the walls and then tackle somebody sideways while I still have the ball.
Or you could do the between the legs dribble move like NBA and that was one of my favorite things was building a team of guys like Ricky Williams and some of the best, Randy Moss and all of them, and then just dominating against the computer and pulling insane moves. And so we haven't got outrageous sports games in a long time, and I really think they should bring them back.
One of the features that I really missed from some of the old NFL games, I don't know if it was just one of the regular NFL games or NFL Street games on one of the N64 Nintendo ones, but you could tackle the ref while they were making calls, and that was really fun because every single time the ref would make a call, you just run up to him.
Is that Blitz?
That's what it was. Blitz. Yeah, NFL Blitz, 100%. That's 100% what it was. I remember that one. Yeah.
I
want a
Blitz
game
the
where I can
League.
tackle the ref again.
I bought Blitz the League not too long ago from eBay, just to play it on my PlayStation 3, and I had to and it was just so much fun breaking bones in a football game. Like, that's just simple joys. Simple joys.
Simple joys. Simple joys. Oof. Well, not as many simple joys as number 8 gives some people. Sax, you got number 8 on the countdown. What's coming in at number 8?
At number 8, we've got Perfect Dark. The first installment of Perfect Dark franchise, developed by Microsoft development studio Rare, then developing for Nintendo, came out on May 22nd, 2000. The game was released on Nintendo 64 and later re-released on Xbox Live Arcade. Now that we've reached the first game's 20th anniversary, fans are clamoring for a new game in the series. While there's rumor that a new Perfect Dark game is in development, there's been no confirmation of this. The Perfect Dark series is beloved by Rare fans far and wide. While the game's later follow-ups weren't as well received as the original or its remaster, the series is one of Rare's classic series that is yet to make a return. Others include follow-ups to Conker's Bad Fur Day or non-Smash Bros. Comeback for the Banjo-Kazooie series. Perfect Dark was nearly the perfect follow-up to Rare's GoldenEye adaptation for Nintendo 64, featuring a wider arsenal with a better presentation and redefined gameplay. Perfect Dark gets a deserved amount of love. Hopefully the series comes back in some form, whether it's on Xbox Series X, re-released, or return to Nintendo platforms. It was Perfect Dark was fun. The first Perfect Dark game I played, believe it was on the 360. And this time I played this at Comrade Kev's house. This is when you would go to your friend's house to play video games. I sat
over to the homie's house.
Back in the day.
Sat on his couch and I grabbed a controller and we went through Perfect Dark. We got slapped up.
R.I.P. Couch Co-op. God damn.
Yeah. And you touch his leg. And then you'd both look in each other's eyes.
I don't remember that part, but sure.
And then you would say, "Get these hands." And then
a slow sax starts playing.
But no, Perfect Dark was a lot of fun. It's one of those franchises that a lot of people don't know that little subtle hint or that little thing that you put in there that it was essentially a revamp of GoldenEye. And they added more levels to and everything, and it is a completely different game for story purposes and everything. But it was essentially a reskin of GoldenEye. And so, if you really liked GoldenEye, you love that kind of a lot of people consider it to be kind of the father of first-person shooters in a way. Yeah. Then Perfect Dark was right up your alley, and I remember loving this game when I was much younger. I know that they, definitely had a few sequels, like you said, but it's one of those that the OG title deserves a remake for just how good of a game it was for when it came out.
Oh yeah, 100%. But it doesn't deserve a remake as much as number 7 on the countdown, which is Godzilla Destroy All Monsters. Which honestly, Godzilla Destroy All Monsters in this case is just a placeholder for any giant kaiju monster fighting games. We had one shit one that came out a couple of years ago. I think there's one for the PS4. There was a Godzilla game that came out. But it was absolute dog shit, and no one enjoyed it or anything else like that. But Godzilla Destroy All Monsters, on the other hand, I don't know if you guys ever got a chance to play it on the GameCube, the OG one. That was probably the peak of giant kaiju monster fighting games, which used to be a genre. That used to be a thing that they would actually make games like War of the Monsters was another one. Rampage was another one where they would have a lot of giant monster fighting stuff. But honestly, there's yet to be a kaiju fighting game that can compete with the GOAT Godzilla Destroy All Monsters. Developed by Pikeworks Software, published by Info Games under the Atari brand for GameCube in 2002, and then later for the Xbox in 2003. The game was an absolute peak for the genre that is frequently ignored and featured kaiju favorites like Ghidorah, Rodan, Gigan, Mothra, and more. I would settle for a War of the Monsters remake because that's the only game where I've ever been able to rip a cell phone tower off and then impale you with it. So that mechanic alone is enough to warrant another version of that game. But a revival, with the revival of the MonsterVerse in general and King Kong versus Godzilla, why not give the King of Monster what it deserves. Give me a reason to lay the smack down on Jake's Godzilla with my King Kong. Make it happen. We will pay good money for it. I'll come in with that big axe thing, and I'll be like, this is how it should have gone. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, when I was looking over the script on this one, and you put this game as one of your top ones, it immediately made me go, "Fuck! That is one GameCube game I forgot to buy," because I bought a bunch of them. You know, like, you know, speaking of nostalgia purposes, of maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, I bought a GameCube with a shitload of GameCube games. Yeah. And over the years, as someone has pulled another one out of the crevices of my brain, I buy them. I go on eBay and I try to find them. It was on Amazon, an unopened version of Destroy All Humans is for sale for like $150. And so, but on eBay you can get it for $40. It's crazy though. That game came out in 2002 and it's still a $40 game. But right. You know, it's one of those where like that was a fun game. I remember playing it for hours. And you know, it was without that game, I don't know if we get Godzilla versus King Kong, you know?
Yeah, no, I feel like that really did expand the whole like MonsterVerse, and like that's where I started wanting to learn about what Skull Island was and what the whole like Godzilla lore was beyond that, was because of Godzilla Destroy All Monsters, 100%. Zach, did you ever get a chance to play Godzilla Destroy All Monsters?
Unfortunately, I didn't.
Oh, you missed out. You missed out on a good one.
I know. I didn't have a GameCube. So the only GameCube playing that I did was again at friends' houses on their couches. Kids. Yeah. That used to be a thing. Believe us. So yeah.
Savage said in the comments there, Nintendo just needs to bring back the GameCube, and I think that's a very valid point. Just bring back. The GameCube is a really underrated console. Yeah. When it comes out there, they had a lot of good ones. I mean, they had the best Smash Brothers of all time on the game. Jessica
loved her Wii because her brother was able to get ports for all of the GameCube games on the Wii. and so she just had a bunch of GameCube games on her Wii.
You didn't need ports. It was backwards compatible.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You can just get the game.
It was really nice. For free from the internet.
Yeah. That'll do it. Well, moving right along on the list, one that we couldn't have a nostalgia list without talking a little bit about Tony Hawk, right?
Yeah.
What's number 6 on the countdown, Jake?
Number 6 on this week's countdown is Tony Hawk Underground, 1 and 2, to be honest. After seeing the release of Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 remastered and feeling the nostalgia from those days of playing Tony Hawk games as a kid, I have an itch to play one of my favorite games in the series, Tony Hawk's Underground. The story, the ability to get off your board, and so much more in Tony Hawk Underground was great. Tony Hawk's Underground and Tony Hawk Underground 2 are fondly remembered by fans as the best of the free roam Tony Hawk era. Released in 2003 and 2004, respectively, the Underground series is well loved by fans due to how they revolutionized the series. But these two games deserve remakes not just because they're beloved, but because also how well they'd pair together. A remake of Thug and Thug 2, which, think about that for a minute. That's so much more fun to say, Thug. Thug and Thug 2 could iron out some of the less than stellar portions of the original games. Thug had some strange amount of driving challenges and stealth sections that felt clunky and kind of half-baked. But, I mean, these were skateboard games. I don't know why they would build stealth missions in skateboarding games, but that's just how crazy Tony Hawk Underground was. The later could be fixed with some rework on the parkour systems. But while the return to the driving sections would be faithful to the original, fans would likely be fine with those being reworked in some other way or removed altogether. But these games are remembered. A lot of people, love Tony Hawk Underground. I, for one, remember specifically, basically, it was the white button on the OG Xbox, because I don't know if you guys remember, the OG Xbox had a white and black button.
Yeah.
And so they just magically did away with another, whenever the console grew more. Yeah. So I remember you would have to press the white button to get off of your skateboard, and you could just walk around and do stuff and talk to people. And I thought that was the most revolutionary thing in a fucking Tony Hawk game. Like, it was insane. And they built the whole franchise around that. And these games, you made a no-name skater, you worked your way up. The second one, you get abducted by Bam Margera, which was a huge name at the time. Yeah. And so, like, it's one of those where, like, I would pay good money for a new Tony Hawk Underground 1 and 2. They would be so much fun to play, but and they'd be such Tony good nostalgia trips.
Skater culture still there to make a game around it? Like, is that...
It's not.
Was it a product of its time? You know,
skateboarding and pro skateboarding. You got to think, like, do you guys remember when every girl in the world wanted to blow Ryan Schreckler and he was like 17, and you were just like, why the fuck does everybody want to blow this child? And like, but it was like literally like everyone was obsessed with that man, and all he was a mildly attractive skateboarding kid. And so it was like it was because everybody else looked like Tony Hawk. And no offense to Tony Hawk, but not the most handsome guy. And so like there's a reason why some of them were like just blown up. I don't know if we will ever see skater boy culture get as big as we did back in that time period, because like you had the Jackass guys that were ramping it all up. Rob Dyrdek got his own show during that time, because of everything. You had Viva La Bam, motherfucker. Like that shit was insane. Yeah. And so like I don't think we'll ever get that kind of like hype again. But I think with the success of seeing the remaster of Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2, it begs the question, why not? Why not keep remastering some of them? Can't be that hard.
No, I think that's a good point. The skater culture there is what I worry about being able to still be a good sell. But I think hell, as we talked about earlier, one of the reasons we're having this whole episode right now is nostalgia, and I think the nostalgia there will hands down sell at the end of the day, 100%.
I haven't put my fat ass on a skateboard in probably about 12 to 15 years, if I had to guess. But I would still play this game.
I would argue also, you said that Tony Hawk's not a very attractive dude. I would say that Tony Hawk is the most average looking dude out there. Imaginable. I can't, like, he's one of those people that you can see at the supermarket.
Model. He's the stock model for cis white men.
Right. Yeah. Like he is the most average looking white dude I've seen ever. So
and
like I think
legendary skateboarder of all time.
And the most legendary skateboarder of all time.
But it's the reason why people don't notice him.
Right. He makes money off of that.
One of the most respected like white people amongst black people. Like there's that meme where it's like Wesley Snipes is like pointing a gun and has the tear dropping from its face. Yeah. And it was like the joke was like the revolution where black people take over and you have to go to Tony Hawk. And then there's that. Tony Hawk even replied to that. He was like, "Oh, I appreciate the hesitation, though."
Yeah, Tony, like, he's always been a good guy, and he always he tweets about whenever people are like, "Hey, you kind of look like Tony Hawk," like and stuff like that. Like he tweets about that shit all the time. But it's good to know that Tony Hawk is up there with Jamal Evans.
Yeah, he's got a special place.
That's Chris Evans, by the way, if you guys.
Yeah. I was just gonna let that go over. Yeah.
Y'all haven't seen all the memes about Jamal Evans? Like Chris Evans apparently, like that dude, he like if he's outside spotted macking on somebody, it's a woman of color. And so like Chris Evans has gotten a lot of clout on Twitter lately. Like people have been like, "That's my dude, Jamal Evans." Look at
it. Because spoiler alert for those that don't know, obviously. That's my name. So it's
oh yeah, that is true. That is true. Yeah, I forgot about that shit.
I was like, huh? No,
it started with Lizzo. Lizzo started it because she tried to. Okay. Lizzo got.
That's when Sax just reaches up and the shield comes into his hand. She's like, "What'd you say?"
Jamal Evans. I'm like,
right. Where's Mjolnir?
And slid in Chris Evans' DMs, and Chris was he was open to it. And so everybody's been going off about like Chris Evans being invited to the barbecue. Like,
yeah, he's invited to the cookout. He can come.
There you go. Well, number 5 in the countdown, moving right along. Well, number 5 in the countdown is actually all about moving actually really fucking fast. What you got for number 5 in the countdown, Sax?
At number 5, we have F-Zero. Falcon! Now I know the undisputed Nintendo racing game is Mario Kart. But what if the next racing game to grace the Nintendo Switch wasn't from the Mushroom Kingdom? What if it was F-Zero? F-Zero debuted in 1990 and was hailed as one of the fastest racing games around. Excuse me. It was also beloved for its incredible music and characters, along with unique racing tracks. Since 2004, though, the series has been nowhere to be found except for the other Nintendo IPs. After its inclusion in Super Smash Bros., Captain Falcon became a household name, and Nintendo still uses F-Zero tracks on both Smash Bros. And Mario Kart. It's clear,
Right?
right?
How insulting is it that fucking F-Zero tracks are in Mario Kart?
I know.
Yeah,
And there's not an F-Zero game.
the disrespect. It's clear there's still a market for the F-Zero game.
Right.
And Crash Team Racing is proof of that. Nostalgic racing games can have success. Now it's time to remake F-Zero. Some aspects would need to be improved, like customizing a racer, character, and maybe adding a few power-ups, but F-Zero is a bad boy in the racing genre, and it's time he makes a fashionably late return to the Nintendo Switch. I need the swag of F-Zero, damn it. I need it.
It'd be
And
a
a
great
Switch,
game to remake.
so I can do it.
There are so many characters in the F-Zero franchise. We would be one if there was a new F-Zero franchise, we would be talking about more F-Zero characters in Smash than just Captain Falcon, because Captain Falcon is just literally just one, and there's a bunch of them that are really cool. And and I think that there's a really cool story you could build there. There's a very futuristic city with a speed racer kind of thing. I mean, think of like pod racing meets speed racer in a Nintendo franchise, and like give me that in modern day. I think that could really fucking work, you know?
Oh yeah. No, and I think racing games, they've stayed popular over the years, so I don't see why. It's surprising they haven't remade F-Zero by now.
Yeah, it really is. It seems like one they missed. For sure. But also one that has been clearly missed as far as a game that needs to be remade. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Number 4 in the countdown is Evolve. Evolve was a truly revolutionary game. It was a 4v1 game where 4 player-controlled hunters took on 1 player-controlled monster. And that player-controlled monster would basically eat other animals throughout the forest and evolve to get special abilities and then take on those hunters to try and defeat them. Now, it was an absolutely amazing experience that was plagued by technical difficulties it had at the startup, and it actually had shut down its servers after 2 years. It's doubtful we'll ever see a remake because the studio doesn't see the game as an actual success and sees that 4v1 just doesn't work. And there were so many things that they said that they would introduce new things and would absolutely break the game. And I mean, I just didn't feel that way. I still have clips on my Facebook page of me playing Evolve because it was such a fun game that I absolutely loved to see. And you know, I don't know. Jake, you played a little bit of Evolve. What do you think about Evolve making this list?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those that definitely needs a remake because it was such a cool concept. I had a lot of fun playing this game in the early stages. It was one of those that's like, it's almost very Fortnite-y. It was kind of like ahead of its time in that aspect that they produced a game that necessarily wasn't a $60 game. It should have been a cheaper game with season passes and things like that to really like keep people going. I think if they would have had the season pass model then, the way that we kind of do now, thanks to like Fortnite and, you know, PUBG and things like that really coming out. The other, this helped set the pave the way for other battle royales, because it kind of was a battle royale in a way. You and 4 other dudes dropped. You didn't know where the enemy was. The enemy didn't know where you were unless they could sense you, and you know certain monsters could do that. But like, it was still, they had to get pretty damn close to even do that.
Right.
But such a fun game, such a unique concept that like, due to shitty servers and other things and the, you know, bugs and stuff, I think a lot of people fell off. And also it got a little repetitive, you know. It was one of those to where like after you played a few, you know, and they trickled out monsters. I don't think they trickled them out fast enough personally.
I agree.
That was another thing. It took months for a new monster to come out.
3 months was every update.
Exactly. And it was just one of those where like, that shouldn't have taken as long as it did, especially for some of the cooler monsters to come out later.
Yeah.
And so literally by the time you got all of the hunters and all of the monsters, the dedicated servers were shutting down because they had kind of like put this game in the rear view. But it was one that I know both of us, I was highly excited for this game, and I enjoyed it when I could play it. I think given the tech that we have now and the power of how much stronger social media has gotten even, this game could do really well, especially in streaming environments. This is kind of like a Dead by Daylight before Dead by Daylight. You know?
Yeah. Definitely. 100%. 100% a Dead by Daylight before Dead by Daylight. Did you ever get a chance to play around with Evolve at all? I know you've heard us talk about it for sure, Sax.
No, it's actually a game I was very, very interested in playing. I just never got around to playing it, but I was definitely down for the concept. I don't understand why they would believe that the 4v1 concept wouldn't work, because it has shown, and it is working today. You know what I'm saying, for certain games. But like Jake was saying, if this game, it came out in the time of, the way social media works now, and the way with the battle passes and stuff like that, all of that stuff coming out, and to be sold at a cheaper price than $60. That's one of the things that I do understand about, games. It's like, you dropped Left 4 Dead. You dropped Left 4 Dead 2. You dropped this new IP that's evolved, and you thought it was going to be Left 4 Dead. It wasn't. Now, not to say it wasn't going to be great, but it's not Left 4 Dead. Let people fill it in and see what they want to do. But if it were to come out in this time, it would absolutely still be around. It would definitely still be prevalent. I could see it working really, really well.
I think that the success of Dead for Daylight really does point to it would have potential success there. I don't mean to cut you off there. What were you saying? No.
You're right. I mean, the formula works, and the only difference is with Dead by Daylight, besides it being like horror-ish genre, it's like they change the player one's perspective altogether, where it's there in the first person perspective and the other 4 players in third person perspective.
Right.
So it makes things a little bit, it changes it up, but it's still that basic formula of the 4v1 situation. I honestly think it could do good in this time. That's just me. I wanted to play it, but it's sad. No,
it came out just a little bit, and honestly, just a little bit before the time, because I think that was like late college for us, and then right after college for us is really when I think streaming picked up, and like stuff like Fortnite became immensely popular and things of that nature. You still had things like League of Legends that were still getting a lot of streaming attention on Twitch at the time, but still at that time Twitch was just a baby. There were people that were on Twitch at that time and are still on Twitch now are uber successful because they got it in on it kind of a little bit earlier. And I think that Evolve would have really benefited from that community more.
100%, because it's a fun one to watch.
Yeah, it really is.
Oh yeah.
But another sci-fi series that a lot of people want to see remade, and we got something pretty close to a remake at least in the last E3. But the Metroid Prime trilogy coming in at number 3. Jake, tell us why the Metroid Prime trilogy makes number 3 on the countdown.
Yeah, all of the games on the list, Metroid Prime trilogy has been the most rumored and may have even been announced already if it weren't for delays to Metroid Prime 4. The trilogy would be the best way to refresh old players on these games before the eventual release of Metroid Prime 4, while also introducing new players to what makes the series so special. Naturally, the dated graphics of these GameCube and Wii titles could be improved. However, it's also an opportunity to alter the control schemes of these games for a better experience all around, and probably even really help be a launching pad into Metroid Prime 4 once we finally get that. Motion aiming can be replaced by regular or gyro-controlled aiming, and tweaks to the Dark World sections could make for some harder moments, especially during Metroid Prime 2, as that one seems to be, a lot of fans believe that's the easiest one. And so, but yeah, I think the Metroid Prime trilogy in general, Metroid is obviously a game that, holds a lot of, it's got a lot of clout in people's hearts, especially on the nostalgia, but not just that, but just on the fact that Samus is a cool character. And, people have been wanting more of Samus for a very long time. Oh, yeah. Metroid Prime 4 has been delayed and, pushed back so long that the fans are still really wanting that. And, we saw it in this year's E3. And so I think a remake of the first 3 games would be a great way to bring back 4. And I don't know if we'll ever see them, but the way the games are and the way they're built, it doesn't seem like it'd be that hard to, remake and bring back some of these games. And so that's why Metroid Prime, the trilogy, has to make number 3 on this list. LOL.
Right. Absolute classic. I understand why it's high up there, and we could always use more Metroid games, right, Sax?
Yeah, absolutely. And my introduction into Metroid situation was Smash Bros. And Samus and Smash Bros. And stuff like that. And like, although I haven't played any of the Metroid games, I've watched gameplay for a lot of them, and they are very interesting little games. You know what I mean? Like the side scroller situation, the thing that they dropped for E3 looks pretty lit, and and there's a constant movement. Well, you know what I'm saying? With this particular one, where you have to get away from this thing that will completely decimate you. You know what I mean? And that's actually pretty cool. And I would like a trilogy remake for me, so I could go back and play it and see what it's about. Because no,
exactly. Especially before the new one.
Yeah. I have many reasons to like Samus. I'm gonna leave that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of sci-fi space scrollers, side scrollers in space, sci-fi side scrollers in space. Say that 5 times fast. Close. What you got for number 2 in the countdown, Sax?
Number 2 on the countdown for this side-scrolling sci-fi platformer is Earthworm Jim.
How the fuck did you get through that so quickly? I'm mad that you got through that so easily. I am mad that you did that so just. God. Ugh.
Oh man, let's see if I can get through the rest of it though. Earthworm is a series of side-scrolling platforming games featuring an earthworm named. Damn it, I love the writing. An earthworm named Jim who wears a robotic suit and battles the forces of evil. The series is noted for its platforming and shooting gameplay, surreal humor, and edgy art style. 4 games were released in the series, but it's been since 1994. Earthworm Jim is one of those series which really defines the 16-bit era. While it was a late release on the SNES and the Genesis Mega Drive, it really pushed the boundaries of those systems and built a solid fan base which would endure for the years despite some rather underwhelming sequels. While a remake has been rumored for a while now, you'll probably never play it because the game will be exclusive to, what is that? Intellivision Amico?
Intellivision Amico.
That is a new console created as a reboot of the brand. It is initially due out for release on October, but has been delayed to April 2021 as a result of the pandemic.
And it did not come out in April.
Tell us a little bit about Intellivision Amco, because you looked into a little bit of this, right?
Yeah, no, and I meant to add a note even onto this that it didn't even come out in April, and there hasn't been much of an update since. But essentially, Intellivision Amico was supposed to be a new console that was gonna, debut, and it was hanging its hat on Earthworm Jim being its Master Chief. Essentially, to carry this brand, which is fucking hilarious if you think about it. I personally believe this is some sort of it was a weird Kickstarter scheme. They brought back all of the original writers, everybody who'd worked on the old school Earthworm Jim franchise. And so it would be interesting to see Earthworm Jim make a comeback, but it really feels like it's getting kind of a strange treatment being put as it's being used as the launching pad for this crazy new console. And so I don't know really where we'll finally or when we'll finally see Earthworm Jim. But I get why he's number 2 on the list. People love Earthworm Jim. I loved Earthworm Jim. It was a fun game. I believe he even had a show that and that was okay. And do you remember there was a claymation fighting game that had Earthworm Jim in it too? And oh man, that shit fucking slapped. And so there's a lot of fun stuff to be had with Earthworm Jim. I really hope he finds his way out of whatever the fuck is Intellivision Amco though.
Yeah. No, he was a real zany character and a kind of an icon of the 90s. And it's one of those characters on our list here that I feel like it's really oh yeah, remember him? He was one of those characters that should be up there with fucking Samus, Earthworm Jim for Smash. I'm there. He was 100% an icon like that. I think Conker was another good example of someone that was like that too.
As of now, It's supposed to come out in October of 2021. Its original release date was April 2019.
Wow.
And so we'll see. We'll see if we get it.
We'll see if Earthworm Jim comes out with it. Did you ever dabble in any Earthworm Jim nonsense, Sax, before?
Here's the thing. I didn't personally, but I was around, like, because that came around, like I said, the Genesis era. You know,
yeah.
So I had one, but that's one of the games I didn't have. I have so many other games, but I didn't have that one. But I had cousins who had
right.
it and watched them play, and it looked hella entertaining. And I was like, oh, I kind of, can I borrow this? No, okay.
That was the end. It was one of those things that, like, if you were around during that time, like you knew about it at least, you know.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah. But I know that, Sax, you know about number one on this countdown.
Oh God,
that's for damn sure.
We all do.
I know. We all know about it. And this is one in the countdown that actually it has the most potential to actually get our dreams come true. But because we've heard about it so many times being remade and we haven't actually seen the fucking receipts yet, it's still number one on our list. And that's motherfucking KOTOR. That's right.
Proof is in the pre-order.
Old Republic. Do what?
I said the proof is in the pre-order. Once it becomes available to pre-order, that is when I'll know it's real.
Exactly.
I agree with that.
No list of the greatest games that need a facelift would be complete without the Knights of the Old Republic. With a sprawling storyline, a layered battle and morality system, and beautiful amounts of side quests and environment, this BioWare masterpiece and its sequel managed to crawl up from merely being a good Star Wars games into one of the greatest and most influential games of all time. Players can and do revisit these games even today. Still considering that KOTOR was released in 2003 and it's beginning to really show its age. I mean, I've even thought about trying to find ways to emulate this and stream this because I'm interested in playing this game because I never even got a chance to actually play through the whole thing, even though I already know the story because KOTOR is that legendary. A next-gen revamp can give this game a true open-world functionality for several visitable planets, an overhauled battle system, and even more side quests and layered story development. In the post-Witcher 3 world we currently live in, Knights of the Old Republic deserves nothing less. Rumors are suggesting that Electronic Arts is developing a Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake that currently fits the current canon. And the remake could be retooled and contain elements from both the Knights of the Old Republic games. And if validated, the Star Wars community will be in an uproar over this startling news. We are definitely waiting patiently, but until we wait patiently, it will remain on our countdown. We want Revan. Revan is like hugely influential now in Star Wars culture. I mean, like I love the picture that Cape grabbed for this one because this Revan here is a femme Sith Revan. And that's one variation of Revan that could be very true to one player, and another version of Revan can be very true to another player. And that's what I fucking love about Revan. That's what I fucking love about this Knights of the Old Republic games, and that's why I think that it makes number one on the countdown. Sax, tell me why I'm right.
I'm going to tell you why you're right, because this game is just fucking legendary. Like, it really is. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this one time, seriously at the camera. I do not play probability combat video games. This is a probability combat video game that I would play over and over and over and over and over again with no problems. Oh, yeah. This game was done so well. Like, I would literally take this game with a facelift for 2021 with the exact same way where you cap out at a 20, you got 20 skill points you can use. You cap out at that. You can't do anything more. I would take it the exact same way, and I would be absolutely happy. I would obviously love them to do a lot more with it, but even if they just redid it the exact same way with upgraded graphics, I would be ecstatic.
Oh, yeah.
No, same. It's one of those games. I replayed this game probably about 5 years ago, or maybe a little longer. I replayed it on my laptop while I was in college. I remember specifically because they ported it to Mac, and you could buy it in the App Store for like $20. And I was like, you know what, done. And so for like $20, I bought like 1 and 2 from Apple because the games, used to be so big that, it was like, oh no, but like now in 2020, you can fit that shit on your MacBook and it's like the small, it's really not that bad. And so I played both of these games. They have a really good Steam community that has built a lot of, if you're going to go back and play it, buy it from Steam. There are mods that you can download for this game that fix a lot of the bugs and stuff that the developers never had the time. There's actually even a whole story mod that adds a lot of the side missions that got cut out in the main game that people found in the source code, and were able to take the source code of those side stories, flesh them out, and completely add them to the game.
Fan-made remastered version.
Yeah. No, there is. Steam essentially has a fan-made remastered version. The graphics, obviously, we lost Sax.
Sax has got something, yeah. No, he's got a reason, I'm sure.
No, he said he was going to... Said I'll be right back. He's gonna go play Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he's got
boom,
it. The platinum hits.
Platinum hits. Wow, look at that.
Woo. Yes.
No, it's one of the greatest games I've ever played. Yes. It's so much fun. I like if the rumors of the remake being a combo of the two games with additional story and like all kinds of stuff being added to it. Fuck me running. That's right. Worth $60-$70 or whatever the fuck you're gonna charge me for it. I'm definitely paying for it. And so that's the power of nostalgia, baby.
I have the second disc in here too. I have this game, and I have the number 2, and I have number 2 in there. Let's do it. I'm so serious. I played this game like Jake, like you said 5 years ago. I played this game over in 2019, and I did it. I think I streamed it. Now it wasn't even streaming for real then. I just did it because someone said I want to watch.
Yeah, it's a fun game. The choices feel like. Every choice feels like it has it's very Mass Effect, Fallout kind of in that aspect that you feel like your choices matter. Yeah. I honestly don't think I've ever played a dark side playthrough, so I may want to do that one day. So I hope they
haven't. Oh
yeah, no, I think
Sax's face.
Do it.
I am always either a middle of the pack or a light side kind of a guy, and so like I don't think I ever played a dark side playthrough, so I definitely need to do that sometime.
Oh yeah.
Also, Revan, first gender fluid Jedi. That's canon.
Well, this game is so good. I do want to note that it's one of the few games. There's not many games, especially RPG games, that I've replayed. I know a lot of people get a lot of play out of games like Fallout and Skyrim and stuff. I played Skyrim one time, and I put enough hours into it that I felt good. I played Fallout 3 one time. I put enough hours into it. I felt good, right? Knights of the Old Republic, I've went back and played this game at least 2 or 3 times to try to get some different endings, to just fuck around, just to go back and play it because it's a fun game. And so it's one of those where like I really hope we get a remake.
Coming to a stream near you soon. I'm gonna be streaming this game because I haven't played it yet, and I know that it's a good one. I wanna check it out for sure.
If you don't 100%. Do it, damn it, I'll do it.
Yeah, no, I need to just bite the bullet and do it. I wish there was a way we could do it together, but there's no way. There's not. That was before co-op, right?
Yes.
Which is another thing. EA, fucking remake that shit with co-op, all right? Like that would be fucking amazing.
I mean, you have a party, so it would be fun.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Honorable mentions in our countdown: Splinter Cell, fucking Star Fox, goddamn Dino Crisis, DBZ Budokai, Jet Set Radio, Power Stone, the Arkham series. NFS Underground, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, Tenchu Z, and Time Splitters. Any other honorable mentions you have that you got? Sax?
I got one. And Kev would love it, and Sag is gonna love it too. The Def Jam fighting series.
Oh fuck yes!
Def Jam Fight for Me.
I love
I need that in my life.
Those games were so ridiculous.
Yes.
You can stomp a motherfucker out with Rick Ross or like
beat somebody's ass with Ludacris and Redman.
I was about to say Ludacris. Yeah, you got fucking DMX, RIP, just like straight whooping ass in that game. It was it was rapper fighting game, and it was I had it. I owned it.
Shout out to Savage and Littlest Nelly with their picks: Sonic Adventure 2 Battle and Banjo-Kazooie. I know Littlest Nelly just wants Sonic Adventure 2 Battle just because he wants that Chow Garden back. Yeah. Which it is really weird that Sonic, although it's at as many iterations, hasn't brought back that Chow Garden, because I always was really confused by that aspect when I was a kid, and now I'm like, they really took that out? I mean, like, I spent a lot of time trying to find that shit and find all those different chows and shit, and feel like that was wasted in the iterations coming forward. But Banjo-Kazooie is definitely overdue for a remake too. They can do it to Crash, they can do it to Banjo.
Exactly. And I think Banjo-Kazooie was one of those franchises that, I mean, shit, if you're putting him in Smash Bros, obviously people want him. You know,
right.
Give him his remake.
Yeah, he's overdue. He is overdue. Well, that will wrap it up for this episode of Geek Life. If you enjoyed everything today, make sure to drop that like, drop that follow. You can always leave us a review on iTunes. We love that. Those are always help us boost us in the algorithm. But if you're a longtime follower of us, please just go ahead and share this with a friend. Go tell somebody else about it. Like one of our posts, share some of those things. That's the best way to help us out. And if you want to go even further than that, there's a donation link at the bottom below, and we take donations. So if you also want to find any of us on any of our personal socials, you can find me at Roos Bane on Twitter and Twitch. Sax, where can they find you?
They can find me on Twitch at _fattest_Sax, and you can find me on Instagram at Javen_Shepherd.
And Jake, what about you?
You can find me at Gonzo Gone Live on both Twitch and the Twitterverses. I'm hoping to get to streaming one day, and I say that every week. And I think if I keep saying it, one day I'll manifest it. So
one day. All right, I don't know why I need to throw that in there. Big shout out to our moderator, Littlest Nelly, and our video producer, Cape. Thank you so much, Cape. Absolutely killed it today. And to all of our new followers, we had one before the break. Shout out to everybody in chat that's going crazy. Littlest Nelly, Viscardi Vendetta. Hello. Good to see you again. Geek Life Live, Caperdoodle, Savage Patch. I already said Savage. Greatest Pistachio was back here. Sag Gaming. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. You guys are absolutely what makes this happen. So thank you. We'll be back. Actually, I could say this time. We'll be back the same time, same place next week. We're having another show next week where we'll be featuring our good friend Semper Zombie as a guest host. So you definitely want to tune in for that one. We got a lot of fun things to talk about. Until next time, we'll see you guys. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.